doubling its solar capacity every 2 years. The Prime Minister, on the eve of the elections, has already announced 1 crore rooftop solar plants. Let's leave it there and take you across to the Lok Sabha for the Finance Minister's address. The Speaker is just introducing her and moving the motion for her to rise to speak.
अंतर संसदीय संघ IPU की प्रेसिडेंट और तंजानिया संयुक्त गणराज्य की नेशनल असेंबली के अध्यक्ष माननीय डॉक्टर तुलिया एक्सन का स्वागत करते हुए अत्यंत प्रसन्नता हो रही है। वे हमारी सम्मानित अतिथि के रूप में भारत की आधिकारिक यात्रा पर आई है। ये हमारे लिए खुशी की बात है कि डॉक्टर एक्सन बजट सत्र को देखने के लिए यहाँ उपस्थित है। माननीय डॉक्टर तुलिया एक्सन शुक्रवार दिनांक 19 जुलाई 2024 को भारत पहुंची। उन्होंने 21 जुलाई 2024 को आगरा का भ्रमण किया और इस समय वह विशेष बॉक्स में आसीन है। हम भारत में उनके सुखद और सफल प्रवास की कामना करते हैं। हम अंतर संसदीय संघ के प्रेसिडेंट के रूप में उनकी भूमिका के लिए सफलता की भी कामना करते हैं। उनके माध्यम से हम तंजानिया गणराज्य की संसद के सदस्यों, तंजानिया की सरकार तथा वहाँ की मित्र जनता को बधाई और शुभकामनाएं देते हैं। माननीय सदस्यगण, जैसा कि आपको समाचार भाग 2 के माध्यम से पहले ही सूचित किया जा चुका है कि माननीय वित्त मंत्री जी के बजट भाषण की प्रतियां हार्ड कॉपी के रूप में उपलब्ध कराई जाएगी। अतः बजट प्रस्तुत हो जाने के पश्चात माननीय सदस्य कृपया बजट भाषण की अपनी अपनी प्रति प्रकाशन काउंटर से प्राप्त कर लें। आपको ये भी सूचित किया जाता है कि माननीय मंत्री द्वारा बजट प्रस्तुत किए जाने के पश्चात बजट की प्रतियां आपको मेंबर्स पोर्टल के माध्यम से भी उपलब्ध करा दी जाएगी। माननीय वित्त मंत्री श्रीमती निर्मला सीतारमण।
Honorable Speaker, I present the budget for 24-25. Introduction. The people of India have reposed their faith in the government led by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi and re-elected it for a historic third term under his leadership. We are grateful for their support, faith, and trust in our policies. We are determined to ensure that all Indians, regardless of religion, caste, gender, and age, make substantial progress in realizing their life goals and aspirations. Global context. The global economy, while performing better than expected, is still in the grip of policy uncertainties. Elevated asset prices, political uncertainties, and shipping disruptions continue to pose significant downside risks for growth and upside risks to inflation. In this context, India's economic growth continues to be the shining exception and will remain so in the years ahead. India's inflation continues to be low, stable, and moving towards the 4% target. Core inflation, that is non-food and non-fuel, currently is 3.1%. Steps are being taken to ensure supplies of perishable goods reach markets adequately. Interim budget. As mentioned in the interim budget, we need to focus on 4 major castes, namely the Garib, Mahilayeं, Yuva, and Annadata, the poor, women, youth, and the farmer. For Annadata, we announced higher minimum support prices a month ago for all major crops, delivering on the promise of at least a 50% margin over costs. Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana was extended for 5 years, benefiting more than 80 crore people. Administrative actions for approval and implementation of various schemes announced in the interim budget are well underway. The required allocations have been made. Budget theme. Turning attention to the full year and beyond in this budget, we particularly focus on employment, skilling, MSMEs, and the middle class. I am happy to announce the Prime Minister's package of 5 schemes and initiatives to facilitate employment, skilling, and other opportunities for 4.1 crore youth over a 5-year period, with a central outlay of 2 lakh crore rupees. I will speak about them shortly, while more details may be seen in the annexure. This year, I've made a provision of 1.48 lakh rupees, 1.48 lakh crore rupees for education, employment, and skilling. Budget priorities. The people have given a unique opportunity to our government to take the country on the path of strong development and an all-round prosperity. In the interim budget, we promise to present a detailed roadmap for our pursuit of Vikasit Bharat. In line with the strategy set out in the interim budget, this budget envisages sustained efforts on the following 9 priorities for generating ample opportunities for all. Number 1, productivity and resilience in agriculture. Number 2, employment and skilling. Number 3, inclusive human resource development and social justice. 4, manufacturing and services. 5, urban development. 6, energy security. 7, infrastructure. 8, innovation, research and development. And 9, next generation reforms. Subsequent budgets will build on these and add more priorities and actions. A more detailed formulation will be carried out as part of the economic policy framework, about which I will speak later in this speech. This budget details some of the specific actions to be initiated in the current year towards fulfillment of these priorities, with potential for transformative changes. The budget also covers some of the previously made announcements with intent to strengthen them and step up their implementation for expediting our journey towards the goal of Vikasit Bharat. Priority 1, productivity and resilience in agriculture. Transforming agricultural research. Our government will undertake a comprehensive review of the agricultural research setup to bring the focus on raising productivity and developing climate-resilient varieties. Funding will be provided in challenge mode, including to the private sector. Domain experts, both from the government and outside, will oversee the conduct of such research. Release of new varieties. New 109 high-yielding and climate-resilient varieties of 32 field and horticultural crops will be released for cultivation by farmers. Natural farming. In the next 2 years, 1 crore farmers across the country will be initiated into natural farming, supported by certification and branding. Implementation will be through scientific institutions and willing gram panchayats. 10,000 need-based bio-input resource centers will be established. Missions for pulses and oilseeds. For achieving self-sufficiency in pulses and oilseeds, we will strengthen their production, storage, and marketing. As announced in the interim budget, a strategy is being put in place to achieve Atmanirbharta for oilseeds such as mustard, groundnut, sesame, soybean, and sunflower. Vegetable production and supply chains. Large-scale clusters for vegetable production will be developed closer to major consumption centers. We will promote farmer-producer organizations, cooperatives, and startups for vegetable supply chains, including for collection and storage and marketing. Digital public infrastructure for agriculture. Buoyed by the success of the pilot project, our government, in partnership with the states, will facilitate the implementation of the digital public infrastructure in agriculture for coverage of farmers and their lands in 3 years. During this year, digital crop survey for Kharif using the DPI will be taken up in 400 districts. The details of 6 crore farmers and their lands will be brought into the farmer and land registries. Further, the issuance of Jan Samarth based Kisan credit cards will be enabled in 5 states. Shrimp production and export. Financial support for setting up a network of nucleus breeding centers for shrimp brood stocks will be provided. Financing for shrimp farming, processing, and export will be facilitated through NABARD. National cooperation policy. Our government will bring out a national cooperation policy for systematic, orderly, and all-round development of the cooperative sector, fast-tracking growth of rural economy and generation of employment opportunities on a large scale will be the policy goal. This year, I have made a provision of 1.52 lakh crore rupees for agriculture and allied sectors. Priority 2, employment and skilling. Employment-linked incentive. Our government will implement following 3 schemes for employment-linked incentive as part of the Prime Minister's package. These will be based on enrollment in the EPFO and focus on recognition of first-time employees and support to employees and employers. Scheme A, first-timers. This scheme will provide 1 month wage to newly entering the workforce in all formal sectors. Direct benefit transfer of 1 month's salary in 3 installments to first-time employees as registered in the EPFO will be up to 15,000 rupees. The eligibility limit will be a salary of 1 lakh per month. The scheme is expected to benefit 210 lakh youths. Scheme B, job creation in manufacturing. This scheme will incentivize additional employment in the manufacturing sector linked to the employment of first-time employees. An incentive will be provided at specified scale directly both to the employee and the employer with respect to the EPFO contribution in the first 4 years of employment. The scheme is expected to benefit 30 lakh youth entering employment and their employers. Support to employers. This employer-focused scheme will cover additional employment in all sectors. All additional employment within a salary of 1 lakh rupee per month will be counted. The government will reimburse to employers up to 3,000 rupees per month for 2 years towards the EPFO contribution for each additional employee. The scheme is expected to incentivize additional employment of 50 lakh persons. Participation of women in the workforce. We will facilitate higher participation of women in the workforce through setting up of working women hostels in collaboration with industry and establishing creches. In addition, the partnership will seek to organize women-specific skilling programs and promotion of market access for women SHG enterprises. Skilling program. I'm happy to announce a new centrally sponsored scheme as the fourth scheme under the Prime Minister's package for skilling in collaboration with state governments and industry. 20 lakh youth will be skilled over a 5-year period. "1,000 industrial training institutes will be upgraded in hub and spoke arrangements with outcome orientation. Course content and design will be aligned to the skill needs of industry, and new courses will be introduced for emerging needs." Skilling loans. The model skill loan scheme will be revised to facilitate loans up to 7.5 lakh rupees with a guarantee from a government-promoted fund. This measure is expected to help 25,000 students every year. Education loans. For helping our youth who have not been eligible for any benefit under government schemes and policies, I am happy to announce a financial support for loans up to 10 lakh rupees for higher education in domestic institutions. E-vouchers for this purpose. E-vouchers for this purpose will be given directly to 1 lakh students every year for annual interest subvention of 3% of the loan amount. Priority 3, inclusive human resource development and social justice. Saturation approach. Our government is committed to all-round, all-pervasive and all-inclusive development of people, particularly farmers, youth, women, and the poor. For achieving social justice comprehensively, the saturation approach of covering all eligible people through various programs, including those for education and health, will be adopted to empower them by improving their capabilities. Implementation of schemes meant for supporting economic activities by craftsmen, artisans, self-help groups, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and women entrepreneurs and street vendors such as the PM Vishwakarma, PM Swanidhi, National Livelihood Missions, and Stand Up India will be stepped up. Purvodaya. The states in the eastern part of the country are rich in endowments and have strong cultural traditions. We will formulate a plan, Purvodaya, for the all-round development of the eastern region of the country, covering Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Odisha, and Andhra Pradesh. This will cover human resource development, infrastructure, and generation of economic opportunities to make the region an engine to attain Vikasit Bharat. On the Amritsar-Kolkata Industrial Corridor, we will support development of an industrial node at Gaya. This corridor will catalyze industrial development of the eastern region. The industrial node at Gaya will also be a good model for developing our ancient centers of cultural importance into future centers of modern economy. This model shall showcase Vikas B, Virasat B in our growth trajectory. We will also support development of road connectivity projects, namely 1. Patna-Purnia Expressway, 2. Buxar-Bhagalpur Expressway, 3. Bodh Gaya, Rajgir, Vaishali and Darbhanga spurs, and 4. Additional 2-lane bridge over River Ganga at Buxar at a total cost of 26,000 crore rupees. Power projects, including setting up of a new 2,400 megawatt power plant at Pir Painti, will be taken up at a cost of 21,400 crore rupees. New airports, medical colleges, and sports infrastructure in Bihar will be constructed. An additional allocation to support capital investments will be provided. The requests of Bihar government for external assistance from multilateral development banks will be expedited. Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act. Our government has made concerted efforts to fulfill the commitments in Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act. Recognizing the state's need for the capital, recognizing the state's need for a capital, we will facilitate special financial support through multilateral development agencies. In the current financial year, 15,000 crore rupees will be arranged with additional amounts in future years. Our government is fully committed to financing and early completion of the Polavaram irrigation project, which is the lifeline for Andhra Pradesh and its farmers. This will facilitate our country's food security as well. Under the Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act, for promoting industrial development, funds will be provided for essential infrastructure such as water, power, railways, and roads. In Kopparthi node on the Visakhapatnam-Chennai Industrial Corridor and Varavakal node on the Hyderabad-Bangalore Industrial Corridor. An additional allocation will be provided this year towards capital investment for economic growth. Grants for backward regions of Rayalaseema, Prakasham, North Coastal Andhra, as stated in the Act, will be provided. PM Awas Yojana. 3 crore additional houses under the PM Awas Yojana in rural and urban areas in the country have been announced, for which the necessary allocations are being made. Women-led development. For promoting women-led development, the budget carries an allocation of more than 3 lakh crore for schemes benefiting women and girls. This signals our government's commitment for enhancing women's role in economic development. Pradhan Mantri Janjatiya Unnat Gram Abhiyan. For improving the socio-economic condition of tribal communities, we will launch the Pradhan Mantri Janjatiya Unnat Gram Abhiyan by adopting saturation coverage for tribal families in tribal majority villages and aspirational districts. This will cover 63,000 villages, benefiting 5 crore tribal people. Bank branches in northeastern region. More than 100 branches of India Post Payment Bank will be set up in the northeast region to expand the banking services. This year, I have made a provision of 2.66 lakh crore rupees for rural development, including rural infrastructure. Priority 4, manufacturing and services, support for promotion of MSMEs. This budget provides special attention to MSMEs and manufacturing, particularly labor-intensive manufacturing. We have formulated a package covering financing, regulatory changes, and technology support for MSMEs to help them grow and also compete globally, as mentioned in the interim budget. I am happy to announce the following specific measures. Credit guarantee scheme for MSMEs in the manufacturing sector. For facilitating term loans to MSMEs for purchase of machinery and equipment without collateral or third-party guarantee, a credit guarantee scheme will be introduced. The scheme will operate on pooling of credit risks of such MSMEs. A separately constituted self-financing guarantee fund will provide to each applicant guarantee cover up to 100 crore rupees, while the loan amount may be larger. The borrower will have to provide an upfront guarantee fee and an annual guarantee fee on the reducing loan balance. New assessment model for MSME credit. Public sector banks will build their own in-house capability to assess MSMEs for credit instead of relying on external assessment. They will also take a lead in developing or getting developed a new credit assessment model based on the scoring of digital footprints of the MSMEs in the economy. This is expected to be a significant improvement over the traditional assessment of credit eligibility based only on asset or turnover criteria. That will also cover MSMEs without a formal accounting system. Credit support to MSMEs during stress period. I'm happy to announce a new mechanism for facilitating continuation of bank credit to MSMEs during their stress period while being in special mention account, SMA stage, for reasons beyond their control. MSMEs need credit to continue their business, and to avoid getting into the NPA stage. Credit availability will be supported through a guarantee from a government-promoted fund. Mudra loans. The limit of Mudra loans will be enhanced to 20 lakh from the current 10 lakh for those entrepreneurs who have availed and successfully repaid previous loans under the Tarun category. Enhanced scope for mandatory onboarding in TREDS. For facilitating MSMEs to unlock their working capital by converting their trade receivables into cash, I propose to reduce the turnover threshold of buyers for mandatory onboarding on the TREDS platform from rupees 500 crore to 250 crore rupees. This measure will bring 22 more CPSCs and 7,000 more companies onto the platform. Medium enterprises will also be included in the scope of the suppliers. SIDBI branches in MSME clusters. SIDBI will open new branches to expand its reach to serve all major MSME clusters within 3 years and provide direct credit to them. With the opening of 24 such branches this year, the service coverage will expand to 168 out of 242 major clusters. MSME units for food irradiation, quality and safety testing. Financial support for setting up of 50 multi-product food irradiation units in the MSME sector will be provided. Setting up of 100 food quality and safety testing labs with NABL accreditation will be facilitated. E-commerce export hubs. To enable MSMEs and traditional artisans to sell their products in international markets, e-commerce export hubs will be set up in public-private partnership mode. These hubs, under a seamless regulatory and logistic framework, will facilitate trade and export-related services under one roof. Measures for promotion of manufacturing and services. Internship in top companies. As the fifth scheme under Prime Minister's package, our government will launch a comprehensive scheme for providing internship opportunities in 500 top companies to 1 crore youth in 5 years. They will gain exposure for 12 months to real-life business environment, varied professions, and employment opportunities. An internship allowance of 5,000 per month, 5,000 rupees per month, along with a one-time assistance of 6,000 rupees will be provided. Companies will be expected to bear the training cost and 10% of their internship cost from their CSR funds. Industrial parks. Our government will facilitate development of investment-ready, plug-and-play industrial parks with complete infrastructure in or near 100 cities in partnership with the states and private sector by better using town planning schemes. 12 industrial parks under the National Industrial Corridor Development Program also will be sanctioned.
Veggie paper, no. Please, बैठिए.
Rental housing with dormitory type accommodation for industrial workers will be, just 1 minute, Rental housing, I repeat, rental housing with dormitory type accommodation for industrial workers will be facilitated in PPP mode with VGF support and commitment from anchor industries. Shipping industry, ownership, leasing and flagging reforms will be implemented to improve the share of Indian shipping industry and generate more employment. Critical mineral mission. We will set up a critical mineral mission for domestic production, recycling of critical minerals and overseas acquisition of critical mineral assets. Its mandate will include technology development, skilled workforce, extended producer responsibility framework, and a suitable financing mechanism. Offshore mining of minerals. Our government will launch the auction of the first tranche of offshore blocks for mining, building on the exploration already carried out. Digital public infrastructure applications. Turning to the services sector, I propose development of DPI applications at population scale for productivity gains, business opportunities, and innovation by the private sector. These are planned in the areas of credit, e-commerce, education, health, law and justice, logistics, MSME service delivery, and urban governance. Integrated technology platform for IBC ecosystem. An integrated technology platform will be set up for improving the outcomes under the Insolvency Bankruptcy Code for achieving consistency, transparency, timely processing, and better oversight for all stakeholders. Voluntary closure of LLPs. The services of the Center for Processing Accelerated Corporate Exit, CPACE, will be extended for voluntary closure of LLPs to reduce the closure times. National Company Law Tribunals. The IBC has resolved more than 1,000 companies, resulting in direct recovery of 3.3 lakh crore to creditors. 3.3 lakh crore rupees to creditors. In addition, 28,000 cases involving over 10 lakh crore rupees have been disposed of even prior to admission. Appropriate changes to the IBC, reforms and strengthening of the tribunal and appellate tribunals will be initiated to speed up insolvency resolution. Additional tribunals will be established. Out of those, some will be notified to decide cases exclusively under the Companies Act. Debt recovery. Steps for reforming and strengthening debt recovery tribunals will be taken. Additional tribunals will be established to speed up recovery. Priority 5, urban development. Cities as growth hubs. Working with states, our government will facilitate development of cities as growth hubs. This will be achieved through economic and transit planning and orderly development of peri-urban areas utilizing town planning schemes. Creative redevelopment of cities. For creative brownfield redevelopment of existing cities with a transformative impact, our government will formulate a framework for enabling policies, market-based mechanisms, and regulation. Transit-oriented development. Transit-oriented development plans for 14 large cities with a population above 30 lakh will be formulated, along with an implementation and financing strategy. Urban housing. Under the PM Awas Yojana, Urban 2.0, housing needs of 1 crore urban poor and middle-class families will be addressed with an investment of 10 lakh crore rupees. This will include the central assistance of 2.2 lakh crore rupees in the next 5 years. A provision of interest subsidy to facilitate loans at affordable rates is also envisaged. In addition, enabling policies and regulations for efficient and transparent rental housing markets with enhanced availability will also be put in place. Water supply and sanitation. In partnership with state governments and multilateral development banks, we will promote water supply, sewage treatments, and solid waste management projects and services for 100 large cities through bankable projects. These projects will also envisage use of treated water for irrigation and filling up of tanks in nearby areas. Street markets. Building on the success of PM Swanidhi scheme in transforming the lives of street vendors, our government envisions a scheme to support each year over the next 5 years the development of 100 weekly hearts or street food hubs in select cities. Stamp duty. We will encourage states which continue to charge high stamp duty to moderate the rates for all and also consider further lowering duties for properties purchased by women. This reform will be made an essential component of urban development schemes. Priority 6, energy security, energy transition. In the interim budget, I had announced our strategy to sustain high and more resource-efficient economic growth, along with the energy security in terms of availability, accessibility, and affordability. We will bring out a policy document on appropriate energy transition pathways that balances the imperatives of employment, growth, and environmental sustainability. PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana. In line with the announcement in the interim budget, PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana has been launched to install rooftop solar plants to enable 1 crore households obtain free electricity up to 300 units every month. The scheme has generated remarkable response with more than 1.28 crore registrations and 14 lakh applications, and we will further encourage it. Pumped storage policy. A policy for promoting pumped storage projects will be brought out for electricity storage and facilitating smooth integration of the growing share of renewable energy with its variable and intermittent nature in the overall energy mix. Research and development of small and modular nuclear reactors. Nuclear energy is expected to form a very significant part of the energy mix for Vikasit Bharat. Towards that pursuit, our government will partner with the private sector for 1. Setting up Bharat Small Reactors, 2. Research and development of Bharat Small Modular Reactor, and 3. Research and development of newer technologies for nuclear energy. The R&D funding announced in the interim budget will be made available for this sector also. Advanced ultra supercritical thermal power plants. The development of indigenous technology for advanced ultra supercritical thermal power plants with much higher efficiency has been completed. A joint venture between NTPC and BHEL will set up a full-scale 800 megawatt commercial plant using AUSC technology. The government will provide the required fiscal support. Moving forward, development of indigenous capacity for the production of high-grade steel and other advanced metallurgy materials for these plants will result in strong spin-off benefits for the economy. Roadmap for hard-to-abate industries. A roadmap for moving the hard-to-abate industries from energy efficiency targets to emission targets will be formulated. Appropriate regulations for transition of these industries from the current perform, achieve, and trade mode to Indian carbon market mode will be put in place. Support to traditional micro and small industries. An investment-grade energy audit of traditional micro and small industries in 60 clusters, including brass and ceramic, will be facilitated. Financial support will be provided for shifting them to cleaner forms of energy and implementation of energy efficiency measures. The scheme will be replicated in another 100 clusters in the next phase. Priority 7, infrastructure investment by central government. Significant investment the central government has made over the years in building and improving infrastructure has had a strong multiplier effect on the economy. We will endeavor to maintain strong fiscal support for infrastructure over the next 5 years in conjunction with imperatives of other priorities and fiscal consolidation. This year, I have provided 11,11,111 crore rupees for capital expenditure. This would be 3.4% of our GDP. Infrastructure investment by state governments. We will encourage states to provide support of similar scale for infrastructure, subject to their development priorities. A provision of 1.5 lakh crore rupees for long-term interest-free loans have been made this year also to support the states in their resource allocation. Private investment in infrastructure. Investment in infrastructure by private sector will be promoted through viability gap funding and enabling policies and regulations. A market-based financing framework will be brought out. Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, Phase 4 of the PMGSY will be launched to provide all-weather connectivity to 25,000 rural habitations, which have become eligible in view of their population increase. Irrigation and flood mitigation. Bihar has frequently suffered from floods, many of them originating outside the country. Plans to build flood control structures in Nepal are yet to progress. Our government, through the Accelerated Irrigation Benefit Program and other sources, will provide financial support for projects with estimated cost of 11,500 crore rupees, such as the Kosi-Michi intra-state link and 20 other ongoing and new schemes, including barrages, river pollution abatement, and irrigation projects. In addition, survey and investigation of Kosi-related flood mitigation and irrigation projects will be undertaken. Assam grapples with floods every year by the Brahmaputra River and its tributaries originating outside India. we will provide assistance to Assam for flood management and related projects. Himachal Pradesh suffered extensive losses due to floods last year. Our government will provide assistance to the state for reconstruction and rehabilitation through multilateral development assistance. Uttarakhand too suffered losses due to cloudbursts and massive landslides. We will provide assistance to the state. Recently, Sikkim witnessed devastating flash floods and landslides that wreaked havoc across the state. Our government will provide assistance to the state. Tourism has always been a part of our civilization. Our efforts in positioning India as a global tourist destination will also create jobs, stimulate investments, and unlock economic opportunities for other sectors. In addition to the measures outlined in the interim budget, I propose the following measures. Vishnupad Temple at Gaya and Mahabodhi Temple at Bodh Gaya in Bihar are of immense spiritual significance. Comprehensive development of Vishnupad Temple corridor and Mahabodhi Temple corridor will be supported, modeled on the successful Kashi Vishwanath Temple corridor to transform them into world-class pilgrim and tourist destinations. Rajgir holds immense religious significance for Hindus, Buddhists and Jains. The 20th Tirthankara Muniswarata temple in the Jain temple complex is ancient. The Saptarishi or the 7 hot springs form a warm water Brahmkund that is sacred. A comprehensive development initiative for Rajgir will be undertaken. Our government will support the development of Nalanda as a tourist center, besides reviving Nalanda University to its glorious stature. Odisha's scenic beauty, temples, monuments, craftsmanship, wildlife sanctuaries, natural landscapes, and pristine beaches make it an ultimate tourism destination. Our government will provide assistance for their development to Odisha as well. Priority 8, innovation, research and development. We will operationalize the Anusandhan National Research Fund for basic research and prototype development. Further, we will set up a mechanism for spurring private sector-driven research and innovation at commercial scale with a financing pool of 1 lakh crore rupees in line with the announcement in the interim budget. Space economy. With our continued emphasis on expanding the space economy by 5 times in the next 10 years, a venture capital fund of 1,000 crore rupees will be set up. Priority 9, next generation reforms. Economic policy framework. We will formulate an economic policy framework to delineate the overarching approach to economic development and set the scope of the next generation of reforms for facilitating employment opportunities and sustaining high growth. Our government will initiate and incentivize reforms for 1. improving productivity of factors of production. And 2, facilitating markets and sectors to become more efficient. These reforms will cover all factors of production, namely land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, and technology as an enabler of improving total factor productivity and bridging inequality. Effective implementation of several of these reforms requires collaboration between the centre and the states, and building consensus as development of the country lies in development of the states. For promoting competitive federalism and incentivizing states for faster implementation of reforms, I propose to earmark a significant part of the 50-year interest-free loan. Working with states, we will initiate the following reforms. Land-related reforms and actions, both in the rural and urban areas, will cover land administration, will cover 1. Land administration, planning and management, and 2. Urban planning usage and building bylaws. These will be incentivized for completion within the next 3 years through appropriate fiscal support. Rural land-related actions. Rural land-related actions will include 1. Assignment of unique land parcel identification number, UL PIN, or Bhu Aadhaar for all lands. 2. Digitization of cadastral maps. 3. Survey of subdivisions, survey of map subdivisions as per current ownership. 4. Establishment of land registry. And 5. Linking to the farmers registry. These actions will also facilitate credit flow and other agricultural services. Urban land-related actions. Land records in urban areas will be digitized with GIS mapping. An IT-based system for property record administration, updating, and tax administration will be established. These will also facilitate improving the financial position of urban local bodies. Labor-related reforms. Service to labor. Our government will facilitate the provision of a wide array of services to labor, including those for employment and skilling. A comprehensive integration of e-Shram portal with other portals will facilitate such one-stop solution. Open architecture databases for the rapidly changing labor market, skill requirements, and available job roles, and a mechanism to connect job aspirants with potential employers and skill providers will be covered in these services. Shram Suvidha and Samadhan portal. Shram Suvidha and Samadhan portal will be revamped to enhance ease of compliance for industry and trade. Capital and entrepreneurship related reforms, financial sector vision and strategy. For meeting financing needs of the economy, our government will bring out a financial sector vision and strategy document to prepare the sector in terms of size, capacity, and skills. This will set the agenda for the next 5 years and guide the work of the government, regulators, financial institutions, and market participants. Taxonomy for climate finance. We will develop taxonomy for climate finance for enhancing the availability of capital for climate adaptation and mitigation. This will support achievement of the country's climate commitments and green transition. Variable capital company structure. We will seek the required legislative approval for providing an efficient and flexible mode for financing leasing of aircrafts and ships and pooled funds of private equity through a variable company structure. Foreign direct investments and overseas investment. The rules and regulations for foreign direct investment and overseas investments will be simplified to 1. Facilitate foreign direct investments, 2. Nudge prioritization, and 3. Promote opportunities for using Indian rupee as a currency for overseas investment. NPS Vatsalya. NPS Vatsalya, a plan for contribution by parents and guardians for minors, will be started. On attaining the age of majority, the plan can be converted seamlessly into a normal NPS account. Use of technology. We have successfully used technology for improving productivity and bridging inequality in our economy during the past 10 years. Public investment in digital infrastructure and innovations by the private sector have helped in improving access of all citizens, particularly the common people, to market resources, education, health and services. We will step up adoption of technology towards digitalization of the economy. Ease of doing business. For enhancing ease of doing business, we are already working on the Jan Vishwas Bill 2.0. Further, states will be incentivized for implementation of the business reforms, action plans, and digitalization. Data and statistics. For improving data governance, collection, processing and management of data and statistics, different sectoral databases, including those established under the Digital India Mission, will be utilized with active use of technology tools. New pension scheme. The committee to review the NPS has made considerable progress in its work. I'm happy that the staff side of the National Council of the Joint Consultative Machinery for Central Government Employees has taken a constructive approach. A solution will be evolved which addresses the relevant issues while maintaining fiscal prudence to protect the common citizens. Budget estimates for 24-25. For the year 24-25, total receipts other than borrowings and the total expenditure are estimated at 32.07 lakh crore rupees and 48.21 lakh crore rupees respectively. The net tax receipts are estimated at 25.83 lakh crore rupees. The fiscal deficit is estimated at 4.9% of the GDP. The gross and the net market borrowings through dated securities during 24-25 are estimated at 14.01 lakh crore rupees and 11.63 lakh crore rupees respectively. Both will be less than that in 23-24. The fiscal consolidation path announced by me in 2021 has served our economy very well, and we aim to reach the deficit below 4.5% next year. The government is committed to staying the course. From 2026-27 onwards, our endeavor will be to keep the fiscal deficit each year such that the central government's debt will be on a declining path as percentage of GDP. I will now move to Part B. Indirect taxes. Sir, I start with GST. It has decreased tax incidence on the common man, reduced compliance burden and logistics cost for trade and industry, and enhanced revenues of the central and the state governments. It is a success of vast proportions. To multiply the benefits of GST, we will strive to further simplify and rationalize the tax structure and endeavor to expand it to the remaining sectors. My proposals for customs duties intend to support domestic manufacturing, deepen local value addition, promote export competitiveness, and simplify taxation while keeping the interest of the general public and consumers surmount. In Budget 22-23, we reduced the number of customs duty rates. I propose to undertake a comprehensive review of the rate structure over the next 6 months to rationalize and simplify it for ease of trade, removal of duty inversion, and reduction of disputes. I shall now take up sector-specific customs duty proposals. Medicine and medical equipments. To provide relief to cancer patients, I propose to fully exempt 3 more medicines from customs duties. I also propose changes in the BCD on X-ray tubes and flat panel detectors for use in medical X-ray machines under the phased manufacturing program so as to synchronize them with the domestic capacity addition. Mobile phone and related parts. With a 3-fold increase in domestic production and almost a 100-fold jump in exports of mobile phones over the last 6 years, the Indian mobile industry has matured. In the interest of consumers, I now propose to reduce the BCD on mobile phone, mobile PCBA, and mobile charger to 15%. Critical minerals. Minerals such as lithium, copper, cobalt, and rare earth elements are critical for sectors like nuclear energy, renewable energy, space, defense, telecommunications, and high-tech electronics. I propose to fully exempt customs duties on 25 critical minerals and reduce BCD on 2 of them. This will provide a major fillip to the processing and refining of such minerals and help secure their availability for these strategic and important sectors. Solar energy. Energy transition is critical in the fight against climate change. To support energy transition, I propose to expand the list of exempted capital goods for use in the manufacture of solar cells and panels in the country. Further, in view of sufficient domestic manufacturing capacity of solar gas, glass, and tinned copper interconnect, I propose not to extend the exemption of custom duties provided to them. Marine products. India's seafood exports in the last financial year touched an all-time high of more than 60,000 crores of rupees. Frozen shrimp accounted for about 2/3 of these exports. To enhance their competitiveness, I propose to reduce BCD on certain broodstock, polychaete worms, shrimp, and fish feed to 5%. I also propose to exempt customs duty on various inputs for manufacture of shrimp and fish feed. Leather and textile. Similarly, to enhance the competitiveness of exports in the leather and textile sectors, I propose to reduce BCD on real down-filling material from duck or goose. I am also making additions to the list of exempted goods for manufacture of leather and textile garments, footwear, and other leather articles for export. To rectify inversion in duty, I propose to reduce BCD subject to conditions on methylene diphenyl diisocyanate MDI for manufacture of spandex yarn from 7.5 to 5%. Furthermore, the export duty structure on raw hides, skin, and leather is proposed to be simplified and rationalized. Precious metals. To enhance domestic value addition in gold and precious metal jewelry in the country, I propose to reduce customs duties on gold and silver to 6% and that of platinum to 6.4%. Other metals, steel and copper are important raw materials. To reduce their cost of production, I propose to remove the BCD on ferronickel and blister copper. I am also continuing with nil BCD on ferrous scrap and nickel cathode and concessional BCD of 2.5% on copper scrap. Electronics. To increase value addition in the domestic electronics industry, I propose to remove the BCD subject to conditions on oxygen-free copper for manufacture of resistors. I also propose to exempt certain parts for manufacture of connectors. Chemicals and petrochemicals. To support existing and new capacities in the pipeline, I propose to increase the BCD on ammonium nitrate from 7.5% to 10%. Plastics. PVC flex banners are non-biodegradable and hazardous for environment and health. To curb their imports, I propose to raise the BCD on them from 10 to 25%. Telecommunication equipment. To incentivize domestic manufacturing, I propose to increase the BCD from 10 to 15% on PCBA of specified telecom equipment. Trade facilitation. To promote domestic aviation and boat and ship MRO, I propose to extend the period for export of goods imported for repairs from 6 months to 1 year. I'll read that again. To promote domestic aviation and boat and ship maintenance, repair and operations, I propose to extend the period for export of goods imported for repairs from 6 months to 1 year. In the same vein, I propose to extend the time limit for re-import of goods for repairs under warranty from 3 to 5 years. I now move to direct taxes. We will continue our efforts to simplify taxes, improve taxpayer services, provide tax certainty, and reduce litigation while enhancing revenues for funding the development and welfare schemes of the government. It has been our endeavor to simplify taxation. We have taken a number of measures in the last few years, including introduction of simplified tax regimes without exemptions and deductions for corporate tax and for personal income tax. This has been appreciated by taxpayers. 58% of corporate tax came from the simplified tax regime in the financial year 22-23. Similarly, as per data available till now, for the last fiscal, more than 2/3 have availed the new personal income tax regime. Comprehensive review of the Income Tax Act. I am now announcing a comprehensive review of the Income Tax Act 1961. The purpose is to make the Act concise, lucid, easy to read and understand. This will reduce disputes and litigation, thereby providing tax certainty to the taxpayers. I will also bring down the demand embroiled in litigation. It is proposed to be completed in 6 months. A beginning is being made in the finance bill by simplifying the tax regime for charities, tedious rate structures, provisions of reassessment and such provisions, and capital gains taxation. Simplification for charities and tedious. Two tax exemption regimes. The two tax exemption regimes for charities are proposed to be merged into one. The 5% TDS rate on many payments is being merged into the 2% TDS rate, and the 20% TDS rate on repurchase of units by mutual funds or UTI is being withdrawn. TDS rate on e-commerce operators is proposed to be reduced from 1 to 0.1%. Moreover, credit of TCS is proposed to be given in the TDS to be deducted on salary. Further, I propose to decriminalize for payment of TDS up to the due date of filing statement for the same. I also plan to provide a standard operating procedure for TDS defaults and simplify and rationalize the compounding guidelines for such defaults. Simplification of reassessment. I propose to thoroughly simplify the provisions for reopening and reassessment. An assessment hereinafter can be reopened beyond 3 years from the end of the assessment year only if the escaped income is 50 lakh rupees or more, up to a maximum period of 5 years from the end of the assessment year. Even in such cases, 6 years before the year of the search, as against the existing time limit of 10 years, is being uncertainty and disputes. Simplification and rationalization of capital gains. Capital gains taxation is also proposed to be hugely simplified. Short-term gains on certain financial assets shall henceforth attract a tax rate of 20%, while all other financial and all non-financial assets shall continue at the applicable tax rate. Long-term gains on all financial and non-financial assets, on the other hand, will attract a tax rate of 12.5%. For the benefit of the lower and the middle income class, I propose to increase the limit of exemption of capital gains on certain financial assets to 1.25 lakh rupees per year. Listed financial assets held for more than a year will be classified as long-term, while unlisted financial assets and all non-financial assets will have to be held for at least 2 years to be classified as long-term. Unlisted bonds and debentures, debt mutual funds, and market-linked debentures, irrespective of holding period, however, will attract tax on capital gains at applicable rates. Taxpayer services. All the major taxpayer services under GST and most services under customs and income tax have been digitalized. All remaining services of customs and income tax, including rectification and order giving effect to appellate orders, shall be digitalized and made paperless over the next 2 years. Litigation and appeals. While our concerted efforts to reduce pendency of appeals at various appellate fora are beginning to show good results, it will continue to engage our highest attention. To dispose of the backlog of first appeals, I plan to deploy more officers to hear and decide such appeals, especially those with large tax effect. For resolution of certain income tax disputes pending in appeal, I am also proposing Vivase Vishwas Scheme 2024. Further, I propose to increase monetary limits for filing appeals related to direct taxes, excise, and service tax in the tax tribunals, high courts, and Supreme Court to 60 lakh rupees, 2 crore rupees, and 5 crore respectively. With a view to reduce litigation and provide certainty in international taxation, we will expand the scope of safe harbor rules and make them more attractive. We will also streamline the transfer pricing assessment procedure. Employment and investment. I have a few proposals to promote investment and foster employment. First of all, to bolster the Indian startup ecosystem, boost the entrepreneurial spirit, and to support innovation, I propose to abolish the so-called angel tax for all classes of investors. Second, there is tremendous potential for cruise tourism in India. To give a fillip to this employment-generating industry, I am proposing a simpler tax regime for foreign shipping companies operating domestic cruises in the country. Third, India is a world leader in the diamond cutting and polishing industry, which employs a large number of skilled workers. To further promote the development of this sector, we would provide for safe harbor rates for foreign mining companies selling raw diamonds in the country. Fourth, to attract foreign capital for our development needs, I propose to reduce the corporate tax rate on foreign companies from 40 to 35%. Deepening the tax base. I have a couple of proposals for deepening the tax base. First, security transaction tax on futures and options of securities is proposed to be increased to 0.02% and 0.1% respectively. Second, for reasons of equity, I propose to tax income received on buyback of shares in the hands of recipients. Other proposals: to improve social security benefits, deduction of expenditure by employers towards NPS is proposed to be increased from 10 to 14% of the employee's salary. Similarly, deduction of this expenditure up to 14% of salary from the income of employees in private sector, public sector banks and undertakings opting for the new tax regime is proposed to be provided. Indian professionals working in multinationals get ESOPs and invest in social security schemes and other movable assets abroad. Non-reporting of such small foreign assets has penal consequences under the Black Money Act. Such non-reporting of movable assets up to 20 lakh rupees is proposed to be depenalized. Other major proposals in the finance bill relate to withdrawal of equalization levy of 2%, expansion of tax benefits to certain funds and entities in IFSCs, and immunity from penalty and prosecution to Benamidar on full and true disclosure so as to improve conviction under the Benami Transaction Prohibition Act 1988. Personal income tax. Coming to personal income tax rates, I have two announcements to make for those opting for the new tax regime. First, the standard deduction for salaried employees is proposed to be increased from 50,000 to 75,000 rupees. Similarly, deduction on family pension for pensioners is proposed to be enhanced from 15,000 to 25,000 rupees. This will provide relief to about 4 crore salaried individuals and pensioners. Second, in the new tax regime, the tax rate structure is proposed to be revised as follows: 0 to 3 lakh rupees, nil; 3 to 7 lakh rupees, 5%; 7 to 10 lakh rupees, 10%; 10 to 12 lakh rupees, 15%; 12 to 15 lakh rupees, 20%; and above 15 lakh rupees, 30%. As a result of these changes, a salaried employee in the new tax regime stands to save up to 17,500 rupees in income tax. Apart from these, I am also making some other changes as given in the annexure. As a result of these proposals, revenue of about 37,000 crore, that is 29,000 crore in direct taxes and 8,000 crore in indirect taxes will be foregone, while revenue of about 30,000 crore rupees will be additionally mobilized. Thus, the total revenue foregone is about 7,000 crores annually. Mr. Speaker, sir, with this, I commend the budget to this august House. Jai Hind.
The speech is over. There are still some formalities, technical formalities left. So you might see the finance minister rise once again. There is going to be a second part to which the proposal has to be passed. And of course, it has to be adopted by the House in conclusion. So we'll let that play out. You've heard the major announcement on the tax slabs. Let this play out and we'll come back to you within a few seconds.
Table the following statements under Section 3 of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management FRBM Act 2003, medium-term fiscal policy cum fiscal policy strategy statement and macroeconomic framework statement.
Item number 3.
Sir, with your permission, I rise to move for leave to introduce the Finance number 2 Bill 2024.
प्रश्न ये कि विधेयक को पूरा स्थापित करने की अनुमति प्रदान की जाए। जो सदस्य इसके पक्ष में हाँ कहें, जो सदस्य विरोध में ना कहें। मेरे विचार में निर्णय हाँ वालों के पक्ष में अनुमति प्रदान की जाती है। माननीय मंत्री जी, अब विधेयक पूरा स्थापित करें।
Sir, I introduce the bill.
Item number 4.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the brass tacks of what affects us on an immediate basis, because there is a lot to discuss over the course of the next few hours. Yes, indeed, the tax slabs for income tax have been changed. The standard deduction has gone from 50,000 to 75,000. So there is a 25,000 rupees increment in the standard deduction. For those receiving a family pension, the standard deduction has gone up from 15,000 to 25,000. The new tax slabs now are 0 to 3 lakhs, nil, no taxes. 3 to 7 lakhs, 5%. 7 to 10 lakhs, 10%. 10 to 12 lakhs, 15%. 12 to 15 lakhs, 20%. And greater than 15 lakhs at 30%. So there has been a tweaking of the slabs, and this 10 to 15 gradation now sees 3 tax slabs. So between 10, if you are earning 9,99,000 to earning 16,01,000 or 15,01,000, you will see a doubling of the taxes in those tax slabs. Several people joining us on the broadcast. Before I open this up, there have also been some significant changes, which of course the stock markets of the day, which are currently down 1.5%, have not really digested very well. This includes changes in the security transaction tax and the changes that have been applied to the futures and option. There have been changes that have been applied in the capital gains tax ecosystem as well, both short term as well as long term, not across the board, but across the various segments which will affect you and me. The changes have not been large, they've been minor, and overall the finance minister has said that the revenue impact on the exchequer will be a negative 7,000 crores. That means 7,000 crores of taxation is being put back into the economy, of which per individual taxpayer a 17,000 rupee, 17,000 rupee benefit can be computed if you are earning in the maximum tax slab category of 15 lakhs and slightly above. You can expect to save 17,000 rupees. And we'll break up the computation on your screens very, very rapidly. You're seeing the salary structure on your screens. The first part, of course, being irrelevant, that 250,000 rupee cap is no longer existent. Now it's a hard cap at 3 lakh rupees. A lot of the adjustments and the calculations have been wiped out. So the tax regime has once again been simplified, which was the right thing to do in the first place. So you don't have to do computation. If you remember, the tax slabs as of yesterday were that if you did the computations and money management, that up to 7 lakhs you could avoid paying taxes. Well, a little bit of simplification has come your way, and 0 to 3 lakhs, once again, no taxes. So your bottom line slab is 3 lakhs, on which you can then also, remember, apply a standard deduction now of 75,000 rupees as opposed to 50,000 rupees a bit earlier. We are going to have to take in examinations going in on this. Samir Gogia is back with us in the studio. Samir ji, let's take direct taxes first, then I want to discuss capital gain and STT with you for a second.
Sure.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I think on capital gain, you've already said there is a change in a standard deduction for salary. There is a slight increase from 50,000 to 75,000. There is a slab change as far as the new regime is concerned. So there has been rationalization of the slab. On corporate side, I have seen there's a abolition of equalization levy. There has been not much on the manufacturing company lower 15% tax rate. But the finance minister has spoken about revamping the entire income tax act. So we may see a light of the direct tax code.
Okay, no, but so the headline figures are this. We are talking about a revamping that we've been talking about revamping for a long period of time. She's given herself a 6 month time for the government to now revamp this, which is basically simplification of the tax code. Now let's look at larger picture, ladies and gentlemen, that this was not done in the February tax, in the February budget. There was no change in direct taxes, but a change in direct taxes has now indeed happened. And I'm going to repeat the figures once again. 0 to 3 lakhs, no taxes. 3 to 7 lakhs, 5%. 7 to 10, 10%. 10 to 12, 15%. 12 to 15, 20%. And greater than 15 lakhs is the maximum tax slab now of 30%. If you're earning 15 lakh rupees, you are going to save rupees 17,000 per taxpayer per year. This is what the tax regime is indicating, which includes the standard deduction increment from 50 to 75,000 rupees and the family pension standard deduction increment from 15 to 25,000 rupees. Mr. Gogia, now let's jump into security transaction tax on FNO and the changes that have been made.
I think they have levied 0.02 and 0.01 on STT on FNO. I think this is majorly to discourage people a little, because people have been more doing these type of transactions on shore. They want people to hold this equity. They want people to shift on from mere speculative transactions to a normal holding period. So I think that's the move there. They have introduced this tax.
Okay, markets, will they appreciate it?
I think people have been making a huge profit. If you see the last trend recently, I think they won't mind that.
Yeah, so the security transaction tax, ladies and gentlemen, is not on the profit value, it is on the transaction value. So eventually you keep paying a tax rate, even if your overall trading turns into a loss. So it is not just 0.02% seems like an insignificant amount. Of course, it has a compliance impact as well, a recording impact, because the tax authorities then are able to record FNO transactions a bit better. So there is an administrative impact which benefits the income tax departments as well as the finance ministry. But moreover, the security transaction tax is what it says. The markets are responding relatively comfortably. They're not shocked by this just yet, down about 1%. And that's the situation right now. Ayush Lohia joining us, working in the EV industry. Ankit Kumar joining us. He's working in a drone logistics startup. I'm going to try to get more people as well. Ayush Lohia, quickly, your thoughts on the budget?
Yet to see in detail how the things is there for electric vehicle. But as of now, I can see that no major announcement has done apart from few changes which we anticipated. So maybe in a more half an hour's time we'll be...
Okay, you need some time to examine the changes. Please do that, sir, because we are here to discuss them. Let me quickly get Ankit Kumar into this conversation. Ankit ji, your quick thoughts.
When you look at the sort of environment which has been created on agri sector and the kind of stuff that has been spoken about the northeastern region and the development of the infrastructure in the northeastern region. That inculcates a lot of things that we are doing about in the drone sector as well, trying to bring in and bring people closure and connect and bring those kind of stuff in place. And parallelly for the people, for the individual level, the 17,000 rupees of impact being created on the taxation front is a lot and is good. And I think it should be warm welcome by everybody, including the stock market, to see how the people, how the common man of the country is being benefited at a larger end. And alongside that, there's a VC fund which has been proposed to be set up for 1,000 crore for the space tech and related deep tech and other sectors which are going to be there, which is going to directly impact us. And added to that is the angel tax abolishment, which was requested for a very long time, and that is now come in place, which includes the people to go and put up more investment in the unlisted sector, and which is going to boost the whole economy, whole sector to a larger degree. So I firmly believe it's a very progressive budget which is brought in, and it's going to benefit all the people in the industry.
All right. Okay. It's progressive. It's incremental. It's all of those things. There is a thematic logic of job generation that has been applied over here. More reactions coming in. We're going to try to get them as soon as possible. Let me meanwhile also update you on the larger picture, ladies and gentlemen. Some things that have been mentioned on short-term gains, which is the short-term gains tax on certain financial assets, and we list them out for you, is now going to be 20%. Unlisted bonds, debentures, debt mutual funds and market-linked debentures will continue to be taxed at a slab rate. As has been mentioned by my guest here, the angel tax for all classes of investors has been abolished. It was a major grouse for those who were coming in and investing in startups. It's gone. On customs duty, gold, which is a major issue, silver, 6% the duty has been reduced to. Platinum, the duty has come down to 6.4%. When it comes to cancer treatment, customs duty has been made exempt on 3 more items which have been listed and come under that list. We've already discussed the 1,000 crore venture capital fund which is to be set up for the space industry. We will come back and discuss that very, very shortly. We're expecting a capex announcement, which is the government's expenditure on capital formation at 11.11 lakh crore rupees. This means that a significant percentage of the government's revenue is going to go into capital expenditure. Generally, that's a good budgetary practice. That's what you want to look for. Your 25 lakh crore is where the tax receipts are coming in at. 4.9% is where the fiscal deficit is coming in at, and heading downwards, says the finance minister at this point of time. We've been told that 1 crore households will get rooftop solar. That's an announcement that's already been made. We've also been told that transit programs for 14 large cities other than the metros will also be created. On the jobs front, one of the biggest, if not the biggest ever internship scheme has been announced by the finance minister, which will be a paid internship. And 90% of the costs of the payment will be borne by government, 10% will be borne by companies. In 500 top companies, I'm assuming that this would mean the 500 top listed companies as per the market indices. In the Mudra loans, which are currently being pulled out by those who have returned their first tranche of loans, that capacity of an unsecured loan has been enhanced to 20 lakhs from a 10 lakh rupees scheme. And yes, Chandrababu Naidu's Andhra Pradesh has now received a 15,000 crore grant. Bihar has received a 26,000 crore grant. So if you're wondering what's happening there, well, that's what has happened. 15,000 and 26,000 crores to the states being ruled by the two allies in various grants from the central government. When it comes from the skill loan scheme, which is for those taking out loans to enhance their skills, a 7.5 lakh rupee loan will be available for those who want to take on classes to do skill enhancement. In incentives to be provided for those who are looking to become employment givers, this is being put out as well as a one-time incentive. The government, we are being told, will be providing a scheme for all people entering the workforce in almost all sectors. They're calling it the first timer scheme. This will be a 1-month wage to all people newly entering the workforce. So if you get your first job, your first paycheck will be matched by the government. 1 crore farmers, we have been told by the Finance Minister, will be initiated into natural farming over the scope of the next 2 years. Natural farming, of course, is a variable of organic farming. The inflation rate is being targeted at 4%. Currently, it is just a smidgen over 5%. Okay, I've tried to give you a summary, quick summary of what all has happened. Let's quickly open this up to guests joining us. Professor Madhav Nalapat is with us. Motilal Sethi is joining with us. He's a from the leather industry and also a member of ASSOCHAM. Ayush Lohia I've already introduced. Ankit Kumar I've already introduced. Samir Gogia is still with us. Professor Nalapat, your quick thoughts before we take in-depth analysis.
Well, Rishabh, I'm glad the budget has been much more adventurous than the interim budget kind of indicated. The interim budget really kept a lot of things completely unchanged. And I think that came as a dampener to the tax-paying individuals in the middle class, etc. And they had a feeling that this could be the future. It's just clearly not the future. And Finance Minister Sitharaman has shown very clearly that she knows the need for comprehensive reform, including in that reform measures such as decriminalization of several items. You know, when you criminalize too many items, then what happens is that you basically promote a culture of fear, and that culture of fear also goes side by side on the part of some officials in basically, not being entirely honest. So this is the reason why that decriminalization is very welcome. A lot of activity gets done by individuals without them realizing the consequences. And I think, such individuals need to be given some protection so that there's a climate of hope and not of fear. That has been generated here. I think it's a very good start, if you ask me, Rishabh. It's a start absolutely in the right direction. And I'm sure the subsequent budgets are going to be...
Five pillars, the Finance Minister has put under 5 schemes, 5 categories for job employment related activities. One includes the largest ever internship program, which is going to be subsidized to the tune of 90% by the Exchequer, by the Government of India. A paid internship program, top 500 companies. Is this the right move, headed in the right direction?
Absolutely, Rishabh. Absolutely. Educated individuals, people with skills, they should be employed. And a lot of individuals in India, they need a period of internship before being fully capable of handling actual tasks. There has been a problem facing several companies. And this is a brilliant idea, if you ask me. And this will promote a lot of companies to recruit a large number of interns and then give them training, and the bulk of them can then be retained. In a sense, it's like the Agniveer program. You train a large number of people, and then you have the best of them retained within the armed forces.
Okay, all right. 1.48 lakh crores is what has been announced for 3 employment-linked incentive schemes. I've already told you about the main one, which is the largest ever internship scheme that is going to be offered. The second is again something which is very interesting. 1 month's wages to all employees entering in the workforce. Believe it or not, this will be happening once you roll out your EPFO, which is the provident fund which is rolled out. This is up to 15,000 rupees, and the eligibility limit will be 1 lakh rupees. It is estimated that 2.1 crore young people who are starting or getting their first jobs will get this within 3 installments. So what will happen is that you will get a direct benefit transfer as soon as you get your first job and you register and start your EPFO. This will then make you registered and enabled to receive up to 1 month's salary. The limit will be 1 lakh per month, and the limit of 15,000 rupees is what will come into your account. Then we've already mentioned that manufacturing job sector incentivization, which means that at a specified scale, we don't know what the specified scale is, I'll get you the details, that when in the first 4 years of employment, incentives will be provided to the employers and the employees in their EPFO contributions. It is expected that up to 30 lakh young people will be the beneficiaries of these contributions. We've also mentioned that there will be additional cover which has been announced for those earning a salary up to 1 lakh per month. The government will be reimbursing employers up to 3,000 rupees per month for 2 years towards their EPFO contribution for each additional employee added. So for those people who are job creators, if you're running a company and you're hiring people, and when you hire the people, you have to pay them a salary. A part of the salary component is the EPFO. The government says that they will be reimbursing up to 3,000 rupees of that EPFO for 2 years for every additional employee you hire. So it is going to become cheaper for companies for the next 2 years to add employees, add additional employees, which of course should encourage companies a wee bit to take on staff and take on employees. Let me quickly get in Sumit P. Sumit, here you have it. Jobs was a point of conversation. Several schemes, including an internship scheme and 3-pronged structure to incentivize employment has been announced. What does this help achieve?
Rishabh, this helps to achieve that the notion which was created, the RBI said that there were 9 crore jobs created, but there was a notion which was said that you are not creating enough jobs and enough is not done, because the fact remains we have 800 million youth. With these schemes, the focus of the budget has been on job creation. So this is to create jobs, and this is to incentivize the both sides, the employers and the the employees as well. So these additions in the slabs, these benefits which we were talking about. So overall, there's an incentive to create jobs. There's a people, they will get benefits which are tangible in nature. And another takeaway, what I think, the standard deduction from 50,000 to 75,000, that is a positive step which you can look at it. So the people who are earning up to around a lakh of rupees, they will see substantial savings in their income tax. But again, that 30% slab is a bit revised. But overall, what Nirmala ji was saving was 17,500 rupees saving for a taxpayer. Well, that is something which I was expecting more, because at the end of the day, what you save is less than 1,500 rupees a month. That is not what we expected. We expected something more. A bit of disappointment there. But overall, it has been continuation of what the interim budget has been, and what Modi ji's policies on the physical discipline have been. A very aggressive target on physical deficit. That is something which is very interesting. And moreover, job creation, incentivizing growth, incentivizing consumption within the country. That is what I look at a prima facie, the first step.
Okay, let's get industry. Let's start getting industry-wide perspectives. Motilal Sethi joining us on the broadcast. Motilal ji, your thoughts, your first thoughts. Motilal ji, if you can hear us, sir, your thoughts, please. I know it's loud out there, but if you can hear me, what are your first thoughts and reactions, sir? Okay, perhaps he can't hear us. We'll come back once the audio connection to him is sorted. We'll test it out for you as well. Let's continue this conversation meanwhile and take it forward with Professor Nalapat. Professor Nalapat, on the employment scheme specifically, I asked you about the internship scheme. Now, the government says that for those people, those young people who are getting a job for the first time, who have entered a formal sector for the first time, they will be receiving an EPFO benefit up to the tune of 15,000 rupees. Now, why are we encouraging people to take up jobs when I thought we were encouraging people to, do startups and become, job creators and not job seekers?
Rishabh, becoming job creators, you can't expect everybody to be a job creator. The large majority of people are going to be dependent on job creators for their jobs. That is a reality, and that reality has been recognized by the government. The focus on jobs for youth is very welcome. And I would just like to add that in future, I think we have to ensure that the non-formalized economy also, a certain amount of measures get taken to ensure that at the same time, where GST is concerned also, I think the finance minister will need to consult with the states so that we have a simpler GST regime, simpler rate structure, and definitely a much lower rate structure, at least up to a crore or 5 crores or even more. But these days, for example, the GST limit is 20 lakhs. That comes to less than 2 lakhs a month. Now, Rishabh, even somebody who's pushing a handcart will make more than 2 lakhs a month. So I think all these rates do need a relook, and I'm very certain they will be relooked at. Overall, it's an extremely encouraging budget because it shows the promise that is to come, and I think it will be followed in subsequent months by several more changes in regulations, so that overall the ease of doing business, the ease of starting a business, both of that will improve in a very, very significant manner. That's the only way we can get job creation.
Okay.
And may I say, Rishabh,
Yeah.
that job creation is needed across the board, in the formal as well as the informal. For quite some time, you can't do away with the informal. And
Okay.
for both, we need to have incentives and we need to have a proper climate.
Okay.
I'd like to say this budget is creating a proper climate for all of that.
Okay, incentivization. Let me ask this thought then to Amit Kumar. Amit, are you looking for employees? And if so, if you start hiring them, how much of a conversation that a 3,000 rupees per month EPFO consideration makes for you as an employer?
See, I'll tell you something, the whole centricity of the entire budget has been around people and how can get more jobs being created into the entire sector. So if you look at the startup that we run, what we face on a regular basis is the skill set not being available in the market, and there's deeper focus on developing those skill sets. If you get interns in the market who can come and join us, there's lots of people who want to come and do that.
Yeah, so let me ask you the straight question. No, Ankit, will you then tell the interns come? Because now you get paid by government to come. I have to pay you 1,000 rupees a month, and the government pays you 4,000 rupees a month, and I'm willing to take as many as possible.
100%. So I think we can welcome from tomorrow.
Okay, you'll be ready, but of course this qualifies to the top 500 companies. Now which those 500 companies are, whether this by market cap, whether it's by Sensex listing, we'll have to find out very, very quickly. Okay, then let me take the obvious next question to you. When it comes to employers benefiting, would it help you hire people if the government says that as soon as you get a job and registered for EPFO, you will actually be paid 1 month's salary by the government in addition to what you're earning?
Indeed, because it's a new sector, right? And when we talk about deep tech, space tech, drone tech, etc., you're hiring freshers who are coming and who are joining, and to them this is a big benefit which is coming their way, and for an employer like us, it's a big benefit that we can extend to the people out there.
Okay.
And boost them and promote them to come and join sectors like this to boost and try to do multiple levels of things.
Okay, so there is an advantage here. Number one, more companies will be able to hire people because the people that they hire will get an opportunity to get 1 month's free pay. These are first time employees. So the first person getting their first job. So as soon as you get your first job, the second is the companies that are primarily relying on getting consultants because they're very wary of hiring employees. Well, the people, both the employer and employee, have now an incentive to actually be on a payroll rather than on some sort of consultancy contract, which of course adds up to something significantly special. Let me quickly try to get in a conversation and rope in from ASSOCHAM, Mr. Motilal Sethi. Mr. Motilal Sethi, if you can hear me, what are your first thoughts, sir?
Yes. See, the budget is very appropriate in line with building up a strong new India. The budget has got very important ingredient of creation of jobs today, and we see that the whole world is looking towards India for manufacturing. So having able resources, talented resources, well-trained resources is a need for creation of jobs and for creation of the productivity and production for the country. I think the incentives spoken for employment, for training, for skill development, for employers' contribution, employees' benefits, it will go a long way in creation of jobs also and in creating skilled manpower for the manufacturing sector. A lot of benefits have been enlisted for MSMEs. I come from an industry which is leather industry, which is a highly labor-intensive industry, and I think the schemes announced by the government will go in line with the development of our sector also. Our two demands, one was PLI inclusions. I think we are going ahead with that PLI, where production-linked incentive schemes will be there, and more investments will come only when we have an environment. So the budget is creating an industrial environment for the country.
But let me ask you the obvious questions, sir. Let me ask you the obvious questions. If you are going to hire someone who's a first job, the government says they will pay that person directly, direct benefit transfer of 1 month's salary. Then the government also says that you as an employer will get a 3,000 rupee EPFO consideration from the government for any additional employee you hire. Will this tempt you to hire more people, to expand your workforce?
Definitely, this will tempt the industry, because this is also supplemented with the training scheme of the government. I think they have got the placement subsidies also, training also, and skill development also. So if we have more skill in the country, we are going to be hiring more people, and I think they both are going in line with each other. There is going to be incentive on skill development and on creating more resources for the industry. And for the growth of the industry, human resource is very important element. So we will be tempted to employ more people, because incentive is, topping on the ice. Of course, if the employees are available, talented employees are available, we are all open to grow our industry, and for the growth of the industry,
so long answer short, yes, you would be open, after studying the details, to increasing hiring intake, because there is a financial incentive that has been given to you as an employer and to the employee for joining you in a regularized salaried workforce, and of course enrolling with the EPFO. Stay with me, sir. Ashwajit Singh, founder and managing director of IPE Global, joining us on the broadcast as well. Ashwajit ji, your overall thoughts before I jump into these employment linked incentives.
Yeah, overall, I think, Rishabh, I'm quite satisfied with the budget. In fact, it's not just a budget for the year. It really seems to be a statement of the intent of the government for the next 5 years, because in a number of cases, including employment and a lot of other things, whether it's the development funding from bilateral or multilateral, or developing the MSME and the women empowerment, etc. I think most of those schemes are going to be running over not just 1 year, over a number of years. So I think it's a statement of intent. It is a positive statement of intent. They have definitely looked at focusing on an inclusive budget, which is important, because they have kept their word around the Viksit Bharat, around the Gyan. So they have looked at Garib, they have looked at the youth. A lot of focus, you were speaking about employment, a lot of focus is around youth employment. The Nari is well covered, a lot of allocation for women empowerment, and of course they've looked at agriculture and rural. I would have perhaps wanted some more innovative financing to come in. I can talk about that later. Some more schemes around the rural part of India. The budget was silent about health and Narega, which were two mainstays of the budget in the past. But when I look at the fine print, I do realize that the interim budget has already spoken about Narega and health, because a lot of people have been asking why have they been silent about health, but they have actually enhanced the health budget by 12% in the interim budget itself, and Narega has also had a fair amount of allocation.
Okay.
I'm quite happy to see the focus on the manufacturing sector. Happy to see that they are looking at more labor-intense industries as well, because a lot of population is in the unorganized sector or really where they're not that skilled. So we can look at some of the lessons learned, say from even why go further, even neighbors like Bangladesh in this space. But I think I'm very pleased about jobs and skilling. That has been something that we've been aspiring for. I think this particular budget has really given a statement saying that it's time to move from aspiration to acceleration. So I'm very happy with what has been announced for jobs and skills. It's a matter of time to see the fine print and see how that's going to be rolled out.
Okay.
I did hear you talk to the other speakers about the incentives. I think one point that we need to also make is that besides the government giving funding for first-time employment as well as the interns, they've also allowed these 500 companies to use part of their CSR funding for this, which I think is very positive, because in my view, the CSR funding was not really being ideally used as it should have been used in the past. So this will actually, and most companies have not used CSR funding in the past because they've wanted to do CSR directly or indirectly, which benefits their work. This
Yes.
would be an opportunity for them to meet their objectives of CSR and the government to meet their objectives of jobs and skilling people.
Okay, so just but we look at it, top 500 companies, potential to create 1 crore internships, which will mean thousands of internships per company. So when we are looking at skilling, what does an internship do, and why does it help Ashwajit Singh that the government is going to subsidize 90% of it?
Internships, to be frank, is going to be in rural parts of India. I do not see bulk of the internships being in their head offices or major plants, or for that matter, even very skilled sort of work. So you will have internships around distribution, internships about looking at the rural market, which in turn links to my rural consumption, which has been a constraint we've had in the past. So you will not be really looking at very skilled internships because people who are skilled or who are well educated or trained in any case would walk in with jobs on their own. Because our problem in the past has not been that we don't have enough graduates. Our problem has been employable graduates is what we've been missing. And I think this internship will do that. Yes, the figure that they have mentioned is huge for these 500 companies, but I do imagine that while it's been announced for 500 companies, over the next budget or maybe once the fine print comes out, it would probably be rolled to other companies as well.
Okay, we're looking at roughly, it's a significant amount of money, because if you're talking about 3,000 rupees per month towards EPFO contribution, you're talking about 36,000 per year into 2 years per employee, 72,000 rupees that the government says it will pay you, the employer. If you are an employer, indeed you are, Ashwajit Singh, to add additional workforce, to hire more employees. Does this then become a significant enough calculation for you and others to start considering, you know what, it's a good time to go out there and hire people?
See, nobody is going to be hiring people for the sake of that 3,000 rupees. But what people will really look at is that you will get people who would be part subsidized, part funded by CSR, but at the end of the day, who will add value to your business as well. So I think that is going to be the underlying issue as well. But from the government's perspective, I mean, the government is already doling out far more, whether it's on the, it's in the PM Kisan or it is, in even Narega. So this is really a good way of I would say, channelizing some of the funds which would have otherwise gone into Narega. But Narega is not that monitored. Let me tell you, a lot of assets created under Narega, a lot of work done under Narega has not been as productive for the economy as one would have wanted it to be. On the other hand, them being attached to 500 top corporates who would, of course, they are at the end of the day into business to besides social cause also make profit. So these corporates will make sure that those people are skilled, trained, and used in the best interest of the corporate, which in turn will be in the best interest of the economy. So it's really more of providing them an incentive for jobs with supervision of the top corporates.
Okay, just
so
stay,
I think it's a very positive
okay, just stay with me. Professor Nalapad, let's discuss the overall health of the economy. I just mentioned 25 lakh crore is the tax receipts, 4.9% fiscal deficit. We are looking at a downward trajectory towards the fiscal deficit. 5% is with inflation it sits. The economic survey told us 8.2% is where growth is sitting. The stock markets, although they've lost 0.5% today, they are at record highs. Foreign exchange reserves are at record highs. The global situation seems to have improved. Does it look good for the next few months?
I'd like to say, Rishabh, that the advantage of having this government is that it's going to last 5 years. And this gives a clear roadmap for major structural reforms, which involve cutting of taxation and easing of regulations. I think the point is, it's a stable government. It's going to last 5 years. And yes, the two principal allies have been accommodated. I think that's a very smart move because the cost is well worth the price in terms of political stability. And we are now looking at 5 years, and we're looking at a trajectory of accelerated reform, as has been said. So I'm quite glad that we are seeing all this. And yes, the point that this is a stable government, the point that it's led by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and you have Finance Minister Sitharaman there, that they give you a promise. It's not just a question of 1 year or 6 months. It's a question of 5 years, Rishabh. And that is the big difference.
Okay, so I have to ask you one slightly technical question before I get Sumit back in. A deep conversation has happened on nuclear energy, sir. 3-point plan under Viksit Bharat, including the Bharat small reactors, the Bharat small and modular reactors, and R&D funding has been announced again in the budget speech. We've been discussing this since 2006, nearly 20 years. Do you think that this is a rollout that is happening, or this is just a little bit of lip service going on?
Rishabh, it's not just 20 years. It's from the 1950s. Homi Jahangir Bhabha, the visionary, who basically mapped out a complete roadmap, followed by other visionaries like Vikram Sarabhai, Raja Ramanna, and that roadmap envisaged thorium, envisaged smaller reactors, and now finally, after all these decades, this government is serious about the nuclear energy, and it's very important to have nuclear energy. You can't have clean energy without nuclear energy, and smaller nuclear plants are feasible. The point is that India needs to upgrade its technology. It's got a very good nuclear establishment. It's got good nuclear scientists, and I think all that is being upgraded over the last 3 or 4 years. From what I know about the scientists, they are quite happy about the attention that's now being paid to them, and you can see that. So I would say, Rishabh, nuclear power is essential. It was seen as essential by Homi Jahangir Bhabha in the 1950s, and it has taken the last 10 years to appreciate the value of nuclear power.
Okay, so it's coming then. It's not lip service, it's coming then. Okay, now let me just pick up, Sumit, one quick thought on you, which has already been announced, but it has now been quantified in the budget. 1 crore households to get rooftop solar. The Finance Minister says that equates to 300 units of electricity free per month. Now, I don't know whether that says that the rooftop solar will be done free of cost or it will be at a subventive cost. But 1 crore households, given that there are about 14-15 crore households in the country, how much of an impact does this have?
Rishabhji, it will have an impact because you see, if you look 6 months back or 1 year back, we were importing these solar panels from China. Now, the number 1 plant in the world and number 3 in terms of production is in India. Now, the cost of solar panels is down and we can make it in India, and we are making under Make in India Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, if we do it for 1 crore houses and 300 units are free, it's a very important thing because it has two implications. One, you are tapping more of solar energy, more of renewable energy. That is what the focus is. And if you compare with the point you were making on the nuclear energy, right? Both are green energies, and so that's the point number one. Second thing is, there's a lot of political thing going on. This itne unit free, this much free. So rather than subsidizing somebody's household, if you're putting a solar panel, you are letting the energy of the sun to get into subsidy rather than the money from the exchequer and the money of the taxpayer to get into subsidy. This is a very smart move. If the project works on 1 crore people, then we can move it to 4 or 5 or 3 crore or whoever people. So ultimately, if the project kicks at a grand level, so our solar panel making industry will hit economies of scales, and this 300 unit free will be a good thing.
And consequently, duty relaxations on solar panel imports, which were announced in the last budget last year, have now been removed. Okay, let me get Ashwajit ji back into this conversation. Ashwajit ji, now what we were expecting, and I know there's some devil in the detail, but I want your perspective on this. There are several government schemes which were, as we sat last year, at the cusp of saturation in many states. Awas Yojana, Jal Yojana, and many others. What is the overall status, and what do we need to come out of the detailing of this budget in terms of allocation for those schemes to actually get completed?
I think, Rishabh, it's interesting that the finance minister has actually spoken about reviewing the overall income tax act. I would say I think there is a need to review all the centrally sponsored schemes. We have a number of these schemes. They're all cross-cutting, overlapping. At times there's a gap, at times they're overlapping. And fine, the schemes were very required for us to get over the COVID crisis, because at that stage we couldn't think about production or income generation, or even survival was important. And I think those schemes were important to get money to the hands of especially the people who were poor, who didn't have access to, even the farmers who didn't have much income at that stage. Now, I would strongly urge that at some stage these schemes need to be reviewed and consolidated. I'm not talking about taking away schemes, but I'm talking about consolidating schemes. The other point that needs to be looked at is looking at the impact of these schemes and the delivery on the ground, because many of these schemes do have their challenges when it comes to the actual impact and delivery. And the direct benefit transfer, the direct cash transfer still makes sure that the entire money does reach the beneficiary. But a lot of other schemes, don't really find their way in the form that they should in terms of getting impact. So I think that's very important. So that needs to be done. But yes, some of the schemes will need to be phased out while newer schemes are coming in. But it's more important to review and consolidate these schemes, because there's no point in announcing schemes if they're not having an impact. I mean, there's a mediocre policy, if it's well implemented, is far better than a great policy poorly implemented.
Just stay with me. Srimati Shiv Shankar joining us. She's the CVP of HCL and also chairperson of the ASSOCHAM Empowerment Council. Ma'am, thank you very much for joining us. Your first thoughts on the union budget?
I think I want to talk a little bit about how the women have become a huge focus in this budget. Especially women are not considered more on the social justice and more like, being someone that need to be seen from a social responsibility angle. I think there's a huge shift about women being an integral part of the larger GDP growth of this country. I think first of all, I would want to congratulate the government and the FM personally, because she seems to have mainstreamed the women in a very different way in this budget. And I think what's most interesting is, let us just look at how the schemes around education, skilling, internship, MSME, as well as even the manufacturing sector, there is an element of women and youth becoming a common, I would say, a common ground, a common force cutting across to accelerate the economic growth. Let's just look at how she's also brought in this element of safe dormitories. Creating those places for women to migrate from their smaller towns to go into where the work is. I think that is a very excellent move. and to certify these dormitories so that it becomes a secured place for women to live. So from the security aspect to mainstreaming women into even leading organizations, I think she's brought in some element of women's participation in the GDP. I think that's one particular focus that I wanted to bring into this group. The second major thrust I see is a whole lot of focus around employers and job opportunities and job creation. Various schemes have been introduced, but in particular, interesting is internships. We are really looking forward to how the internship is going to work, because it's a great bridge between job aspirants and the employers who are waiting to look at the right skilled workforce coming into the system.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to interrupt you there for a follow-up question, ma'am, because you mentioned the right skilled workforce. So is, for example, HCL hiring? And if so, what are the challenges that you're facing when we say that the right skills are being difficult to find while hiring?
Right. In the technology sector, you know, the technology is constantly changing with the AI, Gen AI. Now, of course, more on transdisciplinary, engineering coming into how we have to develop solutions for the clients. It's constantly changing. So while we did talk about the right skilled, the best skilled, we also need to keep in mind it's dynamic. It keeps changing. So it is important for the industry and the skills sector to come together to see how we can meet with the dynamic changes. That would be the key, and that would be the success of generating more employment in the coming years.
Okay, making dynamic changes. Ma'am, thank you very much for joining us with your thoughts, quick thoughts on this. We'll keep on going across. Let me hop back across to Sumit. Sumit, I want a quick conversation on what has also happened, which we haven't discussed, are the two packages. One which has gone to Bihar of 26,000 crores, the other which has gone to Andhra Pradesh of 15,000 crores. We know what's going on over here, but is that enough for those allies to get their states in order? Bihar has been stuck for a long part of our history, not being able to do anything despite the fact the monies are being spent.
I think, Rishabh-ji, it depends on the intention. The money packet is not small, it's quite big. But it depends on the implementation and how and where are you going to implement. We have seen, unfortunately, in these monsoons, the bridges in Bihar have been falling like a house of cards. So if that kind of things are going to happen again, whoever the government is there, people are blaming it on the RJD, that's okay. But with Nitish Babu in the control, if this money is utilized properly and it is utilized in strategic infrastructure development rather than developing any infrastructure and create it, has how states basically use it. But eventually, I believe till next budget of till few months, this money would be good enough. But looking at what are the aspirations of the allies, talking politically, they won't be happy with this kind of a money, because what I am gathering from sources is that Chandrababu Naidu ji wants more than 1 lakh crores. And if he gets around this money, the Nitish Babu will want somewhere around that only. So is this money good enough to satisfy their ambitions vis-a-vis their states? That is a questionable thing. And looking at the political muscle which they have today, I'm carefully using the word muscle which they have today. So how much can they get more and more from the Prime Minister Modi? Because Naidu ji was here and he had a big plans regarding Amravati and all. He's ambitiously targeting to move a lot of industry, a lot of Andhrites from Karnataka to Andhra Pradesh, and that is what the ambitions are. Yeah. So looking at those humongous projects and the money which you are needed, and again these projects are not going to give you money right now. The money will come in 5 years, 7 years. So there's a lot of money which has to be sunk in them, hoping that in due course of time they will produce.
Yeah, but if they do, and well, Chandrababu Naidu can be credited with Hyderabad. So he's done it before. Can he do it again? Maybe he can't. Mr. Goge, you had now chance to go through a lot of the details, and of course the budget is all about the details. The overall picture we can skim through. What in the details that are you now finding interesting, which you feel is tenable or indeed worrying?
I think if you see overall, the budget have been as per the expected, what's expected by the people. If you see the salaried class or making a new regime more lucrative, they have tried to do it by altering certain slabs as well as giving standard deduction. If you talk about investment from overseas, they have tried to accommodate foreign players. They have abolished the angel tax, they have abolished equalization levy, they have reduced the tax rate for foreign companies, and they have tried to lure foreign investors into India. If you talk about the corporate side, they have given a 6-month or a 6-month roadmap for the direct tax code to be simplified. So I think these are some welcome steps. Market, definitely they have altered long-term, short-term capital gain as well as STT. Market,
but the market seems to have digested it pretty okay.
Yes.
So how much was the market expecting? Because the 1% is pretty flat.
No, actually, it's not only STT, it's actually long-term capital gain and short-term capital gain as well. So they have altered the tax rate, they have increased the tax rate on short-term and long-term as well. So market will react. You might see that changes. There have been change in capital gain as well.
Okay.
Starting from today.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's get into the brass tacks. Okay. Sumit, start this off with me. Can the government of the day today confidently say that they have addressed the youth of the country who are job aspirants, not by giving them government handouts in terms of government jobs, but by encouraging job creation in the country?
Rishabh ji, 101% yes, because there is no point of giving 5,000, 8,000, 10,000 rupees, for a diploma holder, for a 10th pass, and for a graduate, because that is not going to help them. Look, this biggest scheme wherein they are going to get internship. What is internship? Internship is on-the-job training. We have been talking about skilling, upskilling, and all. It is the biggest on-the-job training initiative which is launched by any government on planet Earth. Because if you are able to get with this 1 crore people with these top 500 companies, then next budget or next year you can increase it to 2 crore, 5 crore.
But Sumit, can it be rolled out? Is it realistic that within 1 year they'll be able to roll out 1 crore internships? Will the companies jump on board and say, okay, we're going to help you?
101%. You know why? Because companies are looking for manpower. At the same time, if you look at labor intensive industries, the biggest cost is labor. If you look at the IT, the biggest cost is manpower. If you are getting these interns, it's a give and take. I teach you the skills, and the return you're also going to do work for me. Every intern, when I have been an intern and all, we have all given work, but we are getting small stipend.
Okay, so what is the maximization rate? So we have to assume, the mathematics tells us, ladies and gentlemen, that if over the course of the next 12 months, every single of the top 500 companies in this country maximize the number of interns that they can rope in, which is of course human resource, is manpower, of which 90% of it is subsidized by government, then we are looking at 1 crore internships created there. If the companies can maximize the incentives for job creation that have been given for first-time employees as well as for additional employees hired, 2.4 crore jobs theoretically can be created, which is to say that if all these schemes get maximized to the budgetary allocation, they are catering to 3.4 crore individuals getting a paid internship or a paid job over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. Now, that is a significant chunk, because the economic survey has told you that you need to generate 80 lakh employment opportunities per year minimum from these sectors. Now, that does not mean that these schemes will get saturated, because implementing the schemes is the large trick. Sumit, quickly.
You see, Rishabh, the point here is we are missing one point. When people are trained, let's say you trained somebody at TCS, for example, as an intern, so he is able to do whatever he is able to do. Now, the employmentability of that person within the SMEs, within the smaller companies and all increases substantially, because you are trained at TCS, you know the procedures and SOPs, what the TCS follows. That increases your employability, and the skills which are acquired there can be transferred to the SMEs or the lower tier companies which are not competitors of Infosys or TCS, but are Infosys and TCS in making. This is also a very viable thing, because then their employability within the SME sector increases. And the second thing I want to talk about is, when you're talking of giving this 3,000 rupees, look at labor intensive industries. Where does the maximum employment in India come from? That comes from SMEs. For a SME or a MSME, this 3,000 rupees incentive is going to be quite of a good initiative for them to consider employing more people. It's not they will employ for 3,000 because of the labor intensive industries in India, and this is going to be a good step.
Okay.
And combine it with the interns. If there's an intern,
all right. Okay. Let's discuss the law. Let's discuss the rollout of this Kuvar Shekhar Vijendra joining us. Now he's Chancellor of the Shobit University. He also works with the ASSOCHAM Education Council, of which he's chairman. Vijendra, thank you very much for joining us. Now let me ask you the obvious question, because there are going to be graduates coming out of your university who are now being told that in the top 500 companies they can get a paid internship and the government will pay for it. Does this sound like a good deal to you?
It sounds a good deal, but numbers looks to me very small, 500 top companies, because a lot of graduates are coming out from the country. And but it is a good initiative, a good start.
Okay. How can an educationist or a person who is setting up or has set up, has worked in the university structure, now guide their students in the direction of these internships, work with the companies so that the opportunities can actually be fructified? Because writing it on piece of paper versus actually implementing it is completely different phenomenon, sir.
Actually, internship is not something that after completion of the degree student has to go. Internship starts when the student joins the university. Every day he has to learn, because in a university we teach, and then application part has to happen with the collaboration of the industry. What happens with the internship, that finally whatever has been learned and application had been there either in the laboratories or in short projects and assignments, he has to go there and then he has to practice on that, and he has to work on a specific live project when internship is happening. So I am sure that from all the universities, such initiatives have been taken and it is going to be helpful.
Okay, but what do we do, sir? Because the number one complaint, I am an employer, I have jobs available, but I am struggling with people who are graduating, even knowing the basics. A lot of people, 9 out of 10 people who come and do an interview don't even know what India's GDP is. And one day they want to be journalists discussing the budget. So there is the single biggest complaint of all employers, that the people coming to us lack the skills. So what do we do in the education system, especially in the private sector in which you're involved, to bridge that?
Actually, you know, the relationship between academia and industry is very inorganic at present. I always speak about organic relationship, which should start from day one. What happens when during the stay of the student in the university or institution, industry is nowhere. So we have to come together not only for employment purpose but for empowerment purpose also. And with the industry academia interface, now things are changing, because if I do not know what is required, then definitely that training cannot be imparted.
Okay, can you give us an example, sir? Because I remember when ISB was founded, and it was supposed to be founded and all industry was getting together. There's another Unacademy which has been founded. I'm told that is also trying to bring industry together. How are educationists like you liaising with industries to tailor your curricula so that the people coming out get jobs?
Actually, thanks for this wonderful question. Right from the development of the curriculum, what has to be taught? Industry interface has to be there, and this is there now. Secondly, that after every semester, a student has to go to the industry maybe for a short duration to understand what is the requirement, what I have learned is meaningful for the industry or not. Third, industry people have to come to the university time to time, and they have to spend some time with the students to make them understand what is required, because it is not only experience, it is exposure also, what needs to be shared with them. Third, like at our university, if I talk about, we have a 6-month mandatory internship in the industry right from 2014. 2014 we started it, when there was no such initiative or incentives. So what happens, I understand that industry needs people, but boys and girls, they need exposure, experience sharing and experiential learning. So this interface has to be very frequent, actually on daily basis it has to be. And I am happy that many of the universities now are working in that direction, and change is coming. And you will see in coming years, in the light of national education policy, in the light of this awareness about being in touch. You have to be in touch with industry more and more.
Okay.
This change will come. And
Is the
visible.
problem real? Are people coming out of schools and colleges and universities, are they struggling to find jobs? Are they going many months? It might not be your university, you might have anecdotal examples from others, because we are being told that job creation in the country is not happening. What is your experience?
Actually, jobs are there. You also started with this complaint that you have jobs, but you are not finding right people. Actually, this question is not of not having employment. Question is of employability. One, you will appreciate that aspirations of the youth are sometimes unrealistic. They do not want to become an intern. They immediately want to become some CEO or CTO. So that realistic approach has to be there. Then like today in budget also the finance minister was talking about agriculture. Agriculture is not only what we see that it is in a rural area, unorganized sector. A lot of jobs are there. Like in our university, if I look at agriculture informatics and agriculture technology we are working on.
Okay.
A lot of things are coming up. A lot of new jobs have been created. Startups are coming. So there are jobs available. Just we have to match the aspirations with the reality.
Okay, all right. Appreciate Mr. Vijender. Thanks for joining us and giving us your perspective. Sumit, now we had this conversation before, during, now after the elections, now during the budget, now after this budget. Because every time we have this conversation in a data dark situation, and a data dark situation means that we don't have accurate job data. The reason we don't have accurate job data because a large percentage of India's economy does not work through EPFO linked setups where we can measure the job data. But the government said, the Prime Minister said in our interview to us that there are reports that are doing analysis of all government projects. If you're building 4 crore houses, if you're building these many thousand kilometers of highways, what is the number of human hours that are being created? And the computation is 50 crore employable human years of jobs have been created. So are we seeing a shortage, or are we just building into a shortage because somebody for a Tata interview shows up and there's Baghdad, so we think that there's a shortage of jobs?
No, Rishabhji, honestly, there is not a shortage of jobs. If you look at, because what is the definition of a job? I've been trying to have this point for years now. It's the opportunity to earn. Rozgar ke avsar, that is what a job is. But the notion of the job in our mind is that somebody will employ you with a employment letter with a PF and a ESI number. That is what the notion is. Especially if you go to the rural side of the India, they will want a sarkari nokri. For them, only job is a government nokri. If you want them to come to your ITV network and get employed, they say ye to private nokri hai. So they don't see that in the same notion. Unless and until we are able to communicate one thing, as long as the market and the economy creates substantial opportunities to earn for the people, that is what the definition of a job in economics is. But unfortunately, because of political constraints and all, people have been, the opposition has been trying to tweak it around and make it around. All these infrastructure projects are creating jobs. And when they also make mockery of the system by saying pakodonomics and all that. But when we have 50 to 60% of your GDP comes from the unorganized sector. And let me make one point, Rishabhji. They make fun of anything which is small. Arey, pakode talenge kya, fool bechenge kya? Look at US. More than 60% of the GDP comes from the small business, which is a shop, which is a restaurant, which is very small businesses which people do. Even Soho, home office, house office, 60% of the GDP, that is $18 trillion. That is the potential.
Yeah.
But today, we have only 23% of the women in the workforce. Let's say we increase it to 67 or 70%. We know everybody cannot work. But see the quantum of GDP jobs it can have. This notion has to be changed.
Okay, all right. Okay, so there has been an impetus. Okay, now let's look at frontier industries. General Bhatt is back with us. He's from the Indian Space Association. General Bhatt, good speaking to you right before the budget, and now let's jump in, because the big ticket item that has been announced is 1,000 crore venture fund specifically for the space sector. Your views on this before I get into other ancillary things that also have an impact on the space sector?
So we definitely welcome, as the government says, and as the finance minister has said today, the government wants to expand the space economy by 5 times in the next 10 years. And to achieve that, the most important thing is financial support. And in that, this venture capital fund of 1,000 crore rupees, which has been announced to support the space sector, is really welcome. Because our startups, what is most important, what they require, they have the technology, they have the energy, they have the enterprise, but funds are an issue. And this will really help. We welcome it from the entire space industry, and we see this fund growing to a larger amount in the future.
Okay, for people watching the broadcast, ISRO, its efficiency, which means its utilization of funds to achieve the same desired result, is roughly 300% that of NASA. It's roughly twice that of SpaceX. So this is $100 million roughly, give or take, ladies and gentlemen. So if you employ Indian purchasing power and efficiency, you can say that this actual figure is about worth globally $200 million. General Bhatt, that is both a large sum of money, but it's also nothing when it comes to space. So we have that conundrum that even $200 million is a drop in the ocean when billions are required. So how does that impetus then get driven, sir?
So that is why what I said is this is the beginning. We do see this expanding as we grow up. And of course, along with this, the FDI policy, which is more liberal now, I'm sure in the short term and long term will attract more funds coming from international investors.
Okay, let's look at ancillary things that also, not directly, but have an impact on the space sector. One is minerals, of which import duty has been cut off. Lithium, cobalt, all are important minerals in this sector. You already mentioned FDI, so the angel tax is gone. FDI regime is being liberalized. This is good. This is good news. R&D investment is being done. This is good news. So how much of this all adds up that for the private space sector companies that constitute your organization, that they can say, okay, our lives are better tomorrow morning?
Oh, definitely they are better. But yes, in the morning we discussed all aspirations, and being practical, yes, all of them will. What we had proposed to the government would not come, but what has come is good, and we welcome.
Okay, General Bhatt of the Indian Space Association, sir, thanks very much for jumping in once again. We'd love to get your feedback over the next course of the days with your constituent members on what their plans are going ahead, and you know that we do that often, so we look forward to hosting you very soon once again. Kush Kapoor joining us. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Rosette Hotels. Mr. Kapoor, thank you very much for your time. Your first thoughts, sir, before I jump into some specific questions.
I will always look at the things at the positive side, and I guess with the way the country is moving on, we should always look at whatever comes from the government on a positive note. Pretty happy, especially with the government, the way they've taken initiative in terms of the sector pertaining to the jobs and the upskilling. And I could easily see the government is ready to invest a lot of money, be it a part of the first payout for the first timer who's getting into a job. The interns, which we need as the hospitality sector, we need good number of employees now in the country, because the way the hospitality is booming, we all understand in India. So the incentive, where the government will also pay about, I guess there's an amount of 5,000 rupees which they're going to pay for the first couple of months, which anyway will help us as a hotel industry also to bear a bit of our kind of expenses, which will help us to ease out our operations also. There is also news which I heard basically that the government is also looking at about helping about 1 crore farmers in India for natural farming, which I was really excited, because this is the need of the hour. We all know what we are eating in India today, right? So if we are actually helping the ground line farmers to produce, which actually will make India a healthy nation, there's nothing better than that on that. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So let me pick on that thought, sir. Our conversation today is much changed from a conversation 4 years ago, when it was total gloom and doom and little disaster. It's a booming industry now. The airline sector is booming, the transportation sector is booming, and the hotel sectors are booming. Occupancy rates are very high. You've just, the maximum tourist season of, this early June and May, June has just ended. How is the sector performing, sir? How are your hotels doing? How is your F&B business doing? Is it running in a healthy fashion, sir?
First quarter in this financial year has been one of the best season I've seen in my 26 career history, I would say. We've already surpassed our budget for the first quarter for all my units. They're absolutely doing fantastically well. We all as a hotel industry, we are facing tremendous challenge in terms of the manpower, which I just mentioned a few minutes back. skilling of the people, kind of getting them on board. And that's one of the reasons I was saying I was pretty happy with certain things in the budget. However, there's still, I'm sure, a lot of things we as a hotel community still wish to see a lot of things coming from the government.
So let me pick on that one by one. So you are saying that in your chain, okay, you are currently an employer and looking to hire. So there are jobs available that you would want more people. In fact, your problem is finding the people. So this has become I'm an employer, sir. I have the same consideration that I'm taking interviews but not finding the people with the right skill sets despite a concerted effort to do so. So what's your number one challenge in skills? What are the skills you look for as an employer for the kinds of jobs that you're advertising?
So I will look into major 4 departments which any guests interact when they come into the hotel. One is the housekeeping, the other is the chef, which is the kitchen. Third is the food and beverage, restaurant where you need the service, and fourth is the reception desk on that. So even if we want to have the basic skilled people, we need people at that level to be present in the hotels and obviously help the guests to manage their day-on-day operations on that.
Okay, so how do you set up?
We need people mostly at the base level to begin with.
So how are you doing the training? Are there management schools that the kids come out of and you go, okay, if you got this management school certificate, you're good to go, 1 week of training and you're on the floor? Or do you have an internal setup in which several months have to be spent before they can be customer facing?
Right, so I'm so glad you asked me that question. I'll tell you 3 or 4 things what we've done very concretely as a brand. First, we are the highest payers in the country as a hospitality brand right now when we're talking about. We had to do, if I have to get the best talent, I need to pay them the best on that. Second, what we did constructively about a couple of months back, we actually looked at the contractual employees. We looked at the family members who are above 18 years of age. They are at their home without a job right now. We got them into the hotels, we got them into English training classes and personality development classes, right? And what we did is uplifting the community right from the base. And it's a very small step, but it helped us tremendously. Because the kid who was sitting at home without earning anything was looking only at the father or the mother to give them the pocket money. Now that kid every month has the pocket money by working in my hotels. He's trained, knows the basic English, personality has enhanced, and the kid is happy to come to the hotel every day. The father or the mother is happy because now the family income has become doubled on that. That's second part. Third part, we also have realized that there are a lot of my employees, including the contractual employees, which were just the 10th and the 12th pass. Now we are funding for even their education to help them up.
Okay, so that was going to be my next.
One of the reasons I was saying I was pretty happy with few initiatives.
Yeah, that was going to be my next practical question, because we just had the head of a university, a chancellor of a university sitting with us, and he says we need to work with industry. You are technically that industry. You are currently training in-house. I know Oberoi trains in-house, Taj trains in-house. So are you now looking to partner with universities, management schools, hotel management schools, and actually tell them that this is the skill that we need, not what you're currently teaching?
Yes. So what we've taken an initiative from last year, actually, and if you ask, you'll have a couple of institutes who will name you as a brand roseate. We've partnered with these institutes where I have been in the industry for 26 years. And there was always a gap. We all hoteliers have been talking. And I will blame my hotel community to a certain extent that we've never taken initiative to upskill the hospitality sector in terms of the faculty in the institute, these universities. And they've been teaching there for years without any change in the curriculum, without knowing what exactly is the hotel industry has evolved. So what we've done, once every 15 days, I invite 2 faculty to come to my hotel from one of the institute. And they spend 2 full days in my hotels understanding what and how the hospitality industry has evolved. Now imagine when these faculty go back to their institute, they exactly tell their kids, the students, that this is what is happening, this is the new thing. I'll give you an example. I mean, we were the first hotel in the hotel to introduce robot service. Now imagine nobody has seen that in India. Now the faculty, when they come to the hotel and they see the robots serving the guests in my coffee shop, they go back to the institute. So that's an excitement what they're taking back. That's a learning what they take back. And that's how the kids learn.
Okay. All right. Mr. Kapoor, appreciate your time. And please carry on down that path. And if you need people like us in the media, publicizing that, reach out to us. You're heading in the right direction, because that's how we teach these kids. I have the same problem. I have to assume that the media schools are not teaching them, the journalism schools are not teaching them, the mass communication schools are not teaching them. So they come to me, and 6 months I have to assume that I have to train them, only then can they work. Kush Kapoor joining us, CEO of Rosette Hotels. Atul Puri now with us. He is the co-chairman of the National Council on International Tax at ASSOCHAM. Mr. Puri, obviously big ticket items for you. Angel tax is gone. International companies, corporate taxation has been cut by 5%. Your quick thoughts first, sir.
I think overall it's a very good budget, and which is going to impact the entire industry and the salaried employee at large. So there is nobody in the society which has been left untouched with this budget by getting the benefit. There was a lot of suspectability that whether the slab rates will be changed or not, whether the standard deduction will be changed or not. I think overall it has impacted every society, every sector of the individuals and corporates. Coming to the angel taxation, so just to give you an insight, as being part of the council leadership at ASSOCHAM, I represented the delegation before the Honorable Revenue Secretary as a pre-budget event where we were requesting them for certain changes, and we have been really feel honored that out of the large number of changes, at least 5 of them have been accepted and have been considered for amendment and modification in the budget. One of them includes obviously the angel taxation, which has been a very long litigation and contentious issue for the startups, especially in the .com companies. So that is one point. Second is related to the TDS prosecution, where if there is a slight delay in depositing the TDS by the company, the directors get prosecuted. So mind you, this is the only provision under the income tax where right now the imprisonment can happen, leaving aside the Benami Property Act and others. Under the Income Tax Act, this is the only provision. So relaxation of this was one of our core agenda, requesting the Honorable Finance Minister to either increase the limit or to completely abolish the prosecution proceedings. Third was related to the TDS restructuring of the rates, because there have been multiple rates which are applicable, and they are also creating a lot of confusion and lead to litigation. And fourth point was on the capital gain restructuring. Off late, with the continuous amendment in the budgets over the last 3-4 years, the capital gain restructuring was much required, because for financial assets, non-financial assets, there have been different rates, different time slabs, leading them either to long-term or short-term capital gain. So that's also a welcome move. And on top of all,
okay, so hang a second, Mr. Puri. You are saying that the capital gains restructuring, which has already been announced, or the ones you say that will be considered over the next 6 months? Which one are you referring to, which is the net positive?
No, the already which has been announced, where in case of long-term capital gain for a listed share, the listed scrips, the rate has been increased from 10% to 12.5%, but the minimum, the threshold has been increased from 1 lakh to 1,50,000 rupees.
Okay, all right. Okay, so now, so let me get Mr. Gogia back into this conversation on that subject, because it's up his street. International corporate taxation down by 5% from 40 to 35%. Angel tax gone. Mr. Gogia, what impact does this have on actually getting international funds into India, investment into India, and of course, corporate transactions happening into India?
I think this is a positive move, where the foreign investment and the foreign investors wanted certain certainty and in power. So they have reduced the tax rate for the foreign companies. They have also reduced the angel tax. And if you see restructuring the capital gain, or in next 6 months doing away or easing the tax laws, I think this will make Indian market more lucrative, and we will see more investments coming into India in the next.
Okay, all right. Let me quickly get Sumit back in the larger thematic conversation which we are having, which is regarding youth and jobs and job creation. Sumit, I asked the fundamental question. Now let me ask the second fundamental question. Can we go and tell the middle class today that this budget has looked out for you?
Rishabh honestly speaking, there's not much, because I will quote the Nirmala Sitharaman ji, where she says 17,000 rupees is what you save per annum with these reductions. That is 1,400 rupees a month. That is not definitely what the middle class was expecting. We have been trying to raise the points on, insurance of senior citizens and the GST applicable on that and all. Standard deduction from 50 to 75 doesn't make a lot of difference, and that tax slab of 30% is slightly tweaked. There are some small tweaks, but if you look of a bigger thing, what we're expecting, the 4 crore people who are salaried in this country, well, unfortunately, that has not come that way. That is my take on it. We were expecting much more, and we were expecting that, even up to somewhere around 10 lakhs or something, 80,000 rupees per month, it will be kind of tax free, because the tyranny of the time is, Rishabh ji, you can be running a business. Let's say you have a revenue of 500 crores. Your 498 crores can be your expenses, and only 2 crores can be, used, it can be your taxable income. While as a salaried person at a standard deduction of 75,000 rupees, that means, and your cost of living or your jeene ka kharcha is only 6,000 rupees a month, which is not realistic in today's time. To live, breathe and all, you and me only spend 6,000 rupees a month? No, that is not the case. These are the things which we expected a big reform, and we're talking of the overall review of the income tax slabs. I was expecting something major to happen. I was expecting it might go into the Singapore pattern, where it will be quite simplified and will have incentive of getting more and more people on the tax net rather than these small tweaks. I think overall, when I'm talking to my friends and relatives and all, the middle class is not so gun-go.
Okay, so for people, and let me get Mr. Gogen, so for people watching the broadcast, let me qualify it, that the government of India has the data that within this current salary bracket, how many percentage of people and what are the real numbers of people that apply. So there is a huge chunk of people in every lakh rupees that the salary goes up, okay? And as you go higher, obviously it reduces. So the tax slabs will seem odd. Why would you have a tax slab just from 10 to 12, then 12 to 15, then 15 plus? It seems rather complicated, because there's a huge chunk of people between 10 to 12. There's a huge chunk of people between 12 and 15. But on face value, it seems rather complex. So, Mr. Gogia, having put the caveat out there, what is this? Ke 10 lakh hai, to ye hai, 12 lakh hai, to ye hai. Why not have chunky tax slabs?
You see, if you see currently, only 60% of the people were attracted for a new slab rate. We had 40% still going by the old slab rate. Government wanted to make this newer slab rate more lucrative, and what the finance minister said, they want at least 75% people to opt for a new slab rate. We had 7 slab rates earlier. Now they have tried to reduce and pitch in more 6 slabs for the new tax regime. Now putting that to a number, we have close to 6 crore taxpayers in that bracket, in this using these slabs. So you are looking at 6 crore taxpayer in a country of more than 130 crores people.
Yeah, and that is up 3 times.
Yeah.
So in 10 years, that's gone up 3x. It used to be around 1 or 2 crores of people who are paying taxes. Now it's 6 crores. And remember, of the 6 crores, not always are paying taxes every year. Some of them drop in and drop out of the taxation on a yearly basis. So why not go for it? The exchequer can probably afford it. You could have gone for the net loss to the exchequer is only 7,000 crores in a budget of 30 lakh crores. That's not the be all end all. So the exchequer could probably afford it, but why not do a more liberalized tax regime?
See, they'll go in step by step. If you're talking about the number of taxpayer, it used to be when taxpayer used to be more than 9 crore in last year. It reduced to 6 crore. The reason, because you have a 7 lakh rupees exemption limit. So most of the people are out of the tax net. So you again have a close to 6 crore in the last year when you have a new slab rate. So government is also looking at where they can have a minimum threshold where people can be out of the tax net. They don't pay. The only it's a cat and mice game where they want to have more compliances.
Yeah, but let's come to the brass. Sumit, let's address this for a few minutes before I take a break. The brass tax is that 50% of the country, as it is, you are eliminating from the potential tax bracket. Okay, anybody who gets an agriculture income, or anybody who claims it's an agriculture income, okay, income might be from elsewhere. You can say I've been growing potatoes, is anyway out. So 50% is gone. Okay. Beyond that, you are incentivizing the rest of the population to declare a lower income, not because the tax rates are high, but because all the other benefits you get is based on income. For example, in Delhi, if you want to get a school admission on EWS category, your income has to be less than 1 lakh rupees per year. I believe they've changed it to 2 lakh rupees a year now. Now, 1 lakh rupees per year is 7,000 to 8,000 rupees a month. Now it's about 20,000 rupees a month. So the person who wants to get their children into an EWS category cannot show an income of more than 2 lakhs a year. So they are not going to show you a taxable income, not because the tax rate is high, but for other reasons. Similarly, for other benefits like housing and other allowances, you are incentivized to lower your income. Generally, people didn't want to declare their income because the tax rate was high. Now the tax rates are being rationalized, but the people don't want, because they want to be in that category. They want to be in the EWS category because they get other benefits. They hide their income. So how are we ever going to get compliance on tax?
Rishabh ji, it's a very tricky situation because the fact remains, I will quote Prime Minister Modi what he said once. He said that there are only 10 lakh people who show income more than 1 crore rupees in 140 crore log.
Which is laughable.
There is no house, ek makan, you cannot find any house in any of the metros or the towns which have come up less than 1 crore rupees. So where does this money come from? Where does these kothis and farmhouses come from? Nobody knows. The challenge is that unless and until we are able to find a system wherein more and more people come under the tax net, today with the salaried people, there's not an option because your income is considered as your profit. While in the case of business, the logic is that you can have an X amount of income, your profit can be this much of the income. But here, the assumption is whatever you earn is your profit. So that is where the challenge is. Unless and until we kind of, incentivize the taxpayers, the scheme should be related to the taxpayers. What is the incentive of paying higher and higher tax?
Okay.
What is additional?
I'll give you an example of the best thing that you can do, and this is not advice, it's a joke. Okay, so I'm saying it tongue in my cheek, is to incorporate yourself. Okay, because today when I am conducting and earning a salary, I'm first paying tax on the salary, then I pay tax on everything else.
Correct.
However, as Sumit is saying, if I can write off all of those things, I can write off my laptop, my phone bills, my internet bills, my gaadi, everything into that, and I can be running a loss every year. Okay. It is possible, but of course this is not tax advice. Don't go by what I'm saying. I'm not a tax expert. I'm just a lamenting person who earns an X amount per month. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take a break. We've been non-stop for the past 4 hours. We will see you in a couple of minutes. We're expecting several people joining us very shortly. Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, Union Minister for Culture and Tourism, joining us very, very shortly. I'm also going to be expecting the MOS Finance, Pankaj Chaudhary, who will be joining us shortly as well. So stay tuned for that. We take a break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
It's time for a country that imports 40% of its energy to become a net energy exporter. For a country that is the world's biggest arms importer to become world's #1 defense exporter. For a country that sleeps hungry and in the dark. To achieve 100% saturation of schemes. NewsX presents to you the ideas, the innovation, the future that you must have the audacity to crack. The Audacity Budget, Special Budget 2024 coverage on NewsX. It's time for a country that imports 40% of its energy to become a net energy exporter. For a country that is the world's biggest arms importer to become world's #1 defense exporter. For a country that sleeps hungry and in the dark. To achieve 100% saturation of schemes. NewsX presents to you the ideas, the innovation, the future that you must have the audacity to crack. The Audacity Budget, Special Budget 2024 coverage on NewsX.
Welcome back. You're watching our rolling coverage of the Union Budget 2024. I'm being joined by Mr. Rajiv Gupta, President of PB Fintech Limited, with us on the broadcast. Mr. Gupta, you've heard, I'm sure, the budget speech. I want to begin, before we get into some specifics, I want to understand from you, what are your first thoughts on the budget?
So my first thoughts are very clear. I think the government's initiative towards, promoting Viksit Bharat in terms of announcing a specific budget for creating more employment, a specific budget for creating more skilled workforce is certainly a welcome move. The reduction in fiscal deficit target will certainly help, the country with more financial discipline. So a lot of plethora of benefits announced, by the FM today, which will certainly benefit the economy.
Okay. Mr. Gupta, I just want to understand from you, when we talk about skilled workforce, okay, in the past few months itself, we have seen several pieces of news trickling in of there being, just 40 to 50 job openings and thousands of people going to apply for those jobs. When we talk about creating skilled employees in India, what is the expectation of the corporate sector, of the job makers? What are we expecting in the next generation of workers, and how is it that the government should then actually be spending that money? Because every year I've been seeing that we make announcements regarding lakhs of crores of rupees that are going towards a Skill India initiative. But as far as the workforce is concerned, there continue to be complaints from the job providers that this is not the sort of skill set that we are seeking. How do you wish to bridge that gap between the money and the outlay that is being spent by the union government, but at the same time having young skilled workforce in India?
So let me explain this. I think you are absolutely right. There is a gap which needs to be addressed. Announcing a specific... Sorry.
Yes, pardon me, sir. Sorry. We were expecting the Prime Minister. Yes, we were expecting... Yeah, okay, all right. Mr. Gupta, hold on with us. Prime Minister.
विकास की नई ऊंचाई पर ले जाने वाले इस महत्वपूर्ण बजट के लिए मैं सभी देशवासियों को बधाई देता हूं। वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमण जी और उनकी पूरी टीम बहुत बहुत बधाई की पात्र है। साथियों, ये बजट समाज के हर वर्ग को शक्ति देने वाला बजट है। ये देश के गांव गरीब किसान को समृद्धि की राह पर ले जाने वाला बजट है। पिछले 10 वर्षों में 25 करोड़ लोग गरीबी से बाहर निकले हैं। ये जो न्यू मिडिल क्लास बना है, ये बजट उनके सशक्तिकरण की निरंतरता का बजट है। इन नौजवानों को अनगिनत नए अवसर देने वाला बजट है। इस बजट से शिक्षा और स्किल को नई स्केल मिलेगी। ये मिडिल क्लास को नई ताकत देने वाला बजट है। ये जनजातीय समाज, दलित, पिछड़ों को सशक्त करने की मजबूत योजनाओं के साथ आया है। इस बजट से महिलाओं की आर्थिक भागीदारी सुनिश्चित करने में मदद मिलेगी। इस बजट से छोटे व्यापारियों, एमएसएमईज को, यानी कि लघु उद्योगों का, उसकी प्रगति का नया रास्ता मिलेगा। बजट में मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पर भी बल है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पर भी बल है। इससे आर्थिक विकास को नई गति मिलेगी और गति को भी निरंतरता मिलेगी। साथियों, रोजगार और स्वरोजगार के अभूतपूर्व अवसर बढ़, ये हमारी सरकार की पहचान रही है। आज का बजट इसे और सुदृढ़ करता है। देश और दुनिया ने पीएलआई स्कीम की सफलता देखी है। अब इस बजट में सरकार ने एम्प्लॉयमेंट लिंक्ड इंसेंटिव स्कीम की घोषणा की है। इससे देश में करोड़ों करोड़ों नए रोजगार बनेंगे। इस योजना के तहत जीवन में पहली नौकरी पाने वाले युवा की पहली तनख्वाह हमारी सरकार देगी। स्किल डेवलपमेंट और उच्च शिक्षा के लिए मदद हो या फिर 1 करोड़ नौजवानों को इंटर्नशिप की योजना, इससे गांव के गरीब के मेरे नौजवान साथी, मेरे बेटे बेटी देश की टॉप कंपनियों में काम करेंगे। उनके सामने संभावनाओं के नए द्वार खुलेंगे। हमें हर शहर, हर गांव, हर घर एंटरप्रेन्योर्स बनाना है। इसी उद्देश्य से बिना गारंटी के मुद्रा लोन की लिमिट को 10 लाख से बढ़ाकर 20 लाख रुपए किया गया है। इससे छोटे कारोबारियों, विशेष रूप से महिलाओं, दलित, पिछड़े, आदिवासी परिवारों में स्वरोजगार को बल मिलेगा। साथियों, हम सब लोग मिलकर भारत को ग्लोबल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग हब बनाएंगे। देश का एमएसएमई सेक्टर मध्यम वर्ग से जुड़ा हुआ है। एक प्रकार से एमएसएमई सेक्टर की ओनरशिप मध्यम वर्ग है और इसी सेक्टर से गरीबों को ज्यादा से ज्यादा रोजगार भी मिलता है। छोटे उद्योगों की बड़ी ताकत, उस दिशा में हमारा अहम कदम है। इस बजट में एमएसएमईज के लिए ईज ऑफ क्रेडिट बढ़ाने वाली नई योजना का ऐलान किया गया है। मैन्युफैक्चरिंग और एक्सपोर्ट्स इकोसिस्टम को हर जिले तक ले जाने के लिए बजट में अहम घोषणा की गई है। ई कॉमर्स, एक्सपोर्ट हब्स और फूड क्वालिटी टेस्टिंग के लिए 100 यूनिट्स, ऐसे कदमों से वन डिस्ट्रिक्ट वन प्रोडक्ट अभियान को गति मिलेगी। साथियों, ये बजट हमारे स्टार्टअप्स के लिए, इनोवेशन इकोसिस्टम के लिए ढेर सारे नए अवसर लेकर आया है। स्पेस इकोनॉमी को बढ़ावा देने के लिए 1000 करोड़ रुपए का फंड हो, एंजल टैक्स हटाने का फैसला हो, ऐसे कई सारे कदम इस बजट में उठाए गए हैं। साथियों, रिकॉर्ड हाई कैपेक्स इकोनॉमी का एक ड्राइविंग फोर्स बनेगा। 12 नए इंडस्ट्रियल नोड्स, देश में नए सैटेलाइट टाउन्स का विकास और 14 बड़े शहरों के लिए ट्रांजिट प्लान्स, इससे देश में नए इकोनॉमिक हब विकसित होंगे और बहुत बड़ी संख्या में नए रोजगार बनेंगे। साथियों, आज डिफेंस एक्सपोर्ट्स रिकॉर्ड स्तर पर है। इस बजट में डिफेंस सेक्टर को आत्मनिर्भर बनाने के लिए अनेक प्रावधान किए गए हैं। आज पूरी दुनिया में भारत के प्रति आकर्षण बढ़ा है और भारत में टूरिज्म के क्षेत्र में नई संभावनाएं बनी हैं। टूरिज्म क्षेत्र गरीब और मध्यम वर्ग के लिए कई अवसर लेके आता है। इस बजट में टूरिज्म क्षेत्र पर भी विशेष बल दिया गया है। साथियों, एनडीए सरकार ने पिछले 10 साल में ये सुनिश्चित किया है कि गरीब और मध्यम वर्ग को लगातार टैक्स से राहत मिलती रहे। इस बजट में भी इनकम टैक्स में कटौती और स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन में वृद्धि का फैसला लिया गया है। टीडीएस के नियमों को भी सरल किया गया है। इन कदमों से हर टैक्स पेयर को अतिरिक्त बचत होने वाली है। साथियों, देश के विकास के लिए भारत के पूर्वी क्षेत्र का संपूर्ण विकास पूर्वोदय के विजन द्वारा हमारे इस अभियान को नई गति, नई ऊर्जा मिलेगी। हम पूर्वी भारत में कई महत्वपूर्ण इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर जैसे हाईवेज, वाटर प्रोजेक्ट्स और पावर प्रोजेक्ट्स का निर्माण कर विकास को नई गति देंगे। साथियों, इस बजट का एक बहुत बड़ा फोकस देश के किसान है। अन्न भंडारण के लिए दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी स्कीम के बाद अब हम वेजिटेबल प्रोडक्शन क्लस्टर्स बनाने जा रहे हैं। इससे एक और छोटे किसानों को फल, सब्जियों, अन्य उपज के लिए नए बाजार मिलेंगे, बेहतर दाम मिलेंगे, तो दूसरी ओर हमारे मध्यम वर्ग के लिए फल, सब्जियों की उपलब्धता बढ़ेगी और परिवार के लिए पोषण भी सुनिश्चित होगा। कृषि क्षेत्र में भारत का आत्मनिर्भर बनना समय की मांग है। इसलिए दलहन, तिलहन की पैदावार बढ़ाने के लिए किसानों को मदद की घोषणा की गई है। साथियों, देश में गरीबी समाप्त हो, गरीब का सशक्तिकरण हो, इस दिशा में भी आज के बजट में प्रमुख घोषणाएं की गई हैं। गरीबों के लिए 3 करोड़ नए घर बनाना तय हुआ है। जनजातीय उन्नत ग्राम अभियान सैचुरेशन अप्रोच के साथ 5 करोड़ आदिवासी परिवारों को मूलभूत सुविधाओं से जोड़ा जाएगा। इसके अलावा ग्राम सड़क योजना 25,000 नए ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों को ऑल वेदर रोड से जोड़ेगी। इसका लाभ देश के सभी राज्यों के दूर दराज गांवों को मिलेगा। साथियों, आज का बजट नए अवसर, नई ऊर्जा लेकर आया है। ये ढेर सारे नए रोजगार, स्वरोजगार के अवसर लेकर आया है। ये बेटर ग्रोथ और ब्राइट फ्यूचर लेकर आया है। आज का बजट भारत को दुनिया की तीसरी सबसे बड़ी आर्थिक ताकत बनाने के उस पूरी प्रक्रिया में कैटलिस्ट का काम करेगा। विकसित भारत की एक ठोस नींव रखेगा। सभी देशवासियों को बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं।
All right. So that was, of course, Prime Minister Modi there sharing his thoughts on the budget and highlighting what really have been the crucial aspects of this budget as per the government. We still have with us Mr. Rajiv Gupta, President of PB Fintech. Mr. Gupta, before we went into that segue with the Prime Minister, I had asked you a very specific question about what really will be the requirements of India's job makers then as far as skilling our youth is concerned. What are your thoughts on the same? Because a very crucial theme of this budget has been on youth and skill development. So how do you feel that the money should actually be spent? Because lakhs of crores, like I said, every year are being put into skilling the youth. But job makers continue to complain about how the youth today, or those who are entering the job market, do not possess the skills that are required in the sort of jobs that are out there today. What are your thoughts?
So I was just trying to explain that to you earlier, but I was also listening to the PM. I think he spoke about skilling in depth. So basically today, I think you are right, absolutely. On one side, the corporates are finding it difficult to get skilled manpower. And on the other side, the government is facing challenges to address the issue of unemployment, So I have been interacting with the various state governments and central government in the past. My personal view is it has to be a private-public partnership in which we reach out to tier 2, tier 3 cities, partner with colleges through the government, run co-curriculum programs along with corporates, so that those co-curriculum programs, in addition to their graduation course, will help them to become more employable than as of today when they just pass out and come out and find themselves unemployed. That way, the utilization of the budget, the utilization of the money allotted for this purpose would get better utilized. So I'm not limiting this to only the industry which I represent. I think this is a challenge across industries. So I think organizations like ASSOCHAM, will have to work with the government. The Ministry of Skill Department will have to identify large corporates, large industries which employ a large number of people, understand the requirement there, and help them to reach out to colleges in tier 2, tier 3 cities where employment opportunities are virtually nil. I think in this way, we'll be able to utilize the budget effectively and at the same time solve the problem of unemployment to the large extent.
Mr. Gupta, at the same time, a very interesting announcement there made by the government as far as internships are also concerned. They're saying that why don't you use your CSR budget to fund a portion of what an intern should get, and the rest will be taken care of by the government. A lot of times we've seen, as you mentioned, tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. A lot of times we see that youth in tier 2, tier 3 cities are not able to even afford internships because they need to perhaps move to a town nearby or a city nearby, and they're not able to really keep up with the expenses, which results in so many of them graduating from college but not utilizing any time in those 3 to 4 years of college to actually come intern in cities, understand what really is required for a specific field that they may be wanting to venture into. Do you feel that this internship scheme that has been announced by the government could solve India's employment crisis?
I would 100% agree on that, because today when you are graduating, you are only focusing on your academics and your only aim is to pass out and get a degree, But somewhere it's important for people to realize that if they utilize their available time while studying to also, participate in internship programs of corporates, and with government announcing a specific budget and allowing corporates to use CSR to also support those people who come from out of station, to work with various organizations, is certainly a welcome move. In my view, over the next 3 or 4 years when a person is graduating, if he has done a couple of internship programs and also participates in a co-curriculum program, which I just explained a little while ago,
yes,
I feel to a large extent we'll be able to create employment in this tier 2, tier 3 cities.
Absolutely. At the same time, Mr. Gupta, what are your thoughts, or the government also wanted to create further employment opportunities for women? How crucial do you feel that will be?
I think, extremely crucial. We all speak about inclusion, and we all look at number of women employed in various organizations. While the number is improving, but I think it's much below our counterparts across the Western world, right? I mean, today in the metros, you still find a lot of women working and, earning, and that percentage is slowly increasing. But the bigger challenge is, how do we take women right up to the top? I mean, you have a lot of women today employed in middle management. Some organizations also have a number of people employed in senior management. But unless you encourage women and support them in various phases of their life to be able to grow to the leadership level, then you really cannot build the leadership team which you require. Now you go back to, again, smaller towns. I don't think, large number of women even think of working. That is still considered a stigma. I think at the end of the day, a lot of good women are skilled enough to support corporates in tier 2, tier 3 towns to promote their products. Let me give you one example. I know of a BFSI company which lends money in only rural markets, and they have created self-help groups of women who promote their products within the same village or taluka, and thereby ensuring that the financial literacy in terms of borrowing from the right places and not getting fleeced by money lenders is addressed.
Okay, Mr. Gupta, before we let you go and bring in some of our other panelists as well, I just want to understand from you, another crucial announcement that has been made by the Finance Minister is cutting off the corporate tax rate for foreign companies from 40% to 35%. Do you feel that this 5% cut in the taxes is significant enough to bring in the sort of FDI that the government is looking for?
I think so. I think we're all looking at more and more players coming into this country, right? Now we're all waiting for the new Insurance Act to come in, and we are hoping that this country will also be able to attract a lot more insurance players into this country, And insurance is a long-term business.
Yes.
You don't make profits, in many years to come. So I think any tax incentive, any support from the government to encourage these players to come is certainly a welcome move, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Mr. Rajiv Gupta, for joining us on the broadcast. I also have with me Pradeep Shetty, President of the FHRAI, and we also have with us Mr. Sunil Shanghai, Chair of FICCI Committee on Capital Markets and Founder and CEO of Nova One Capital Private Limited. Let me begin with Mr. Pradeep Shetty, President of FHRAI. Mr. Shetty, what are your first thoughts on the budget?
So our first thoughts are, if I restrict myself to our industry, that is the hospitality sector, we are disappointed. In fact, we were looking forward to a lot of initiatives because there are some seriously fundamental issues concerned with reaching out to the 2047 dream of the 3 trillion tourism economy or the Viksit Bharat. And for those structural changes which were required to be in the competitive world order, there were certain measures like infrastructure status, then GST rationalization, some policy reforms in ease of doing business, all of which, we had very fruitful discussion. In fact, the Finance Minister herself had held rounds of discussion with the industry. We were hopeful something would come out more specific, although she mentioned a lot about investments and strategy for making India a global travel destination, but nothing in specific that really excites us for this industry.
But at the same time, Mr. Shetty, what about the cut for foreign companies, the corporate tax rate cut from 40% to 35% for foreign companies? Do you feel that could actually be a big boost for the hospitality sector? Because that truly is one of the sectors that looks at bringing in global companies.
So one of the startling facts which I must tell you is that there is no great foreign investment coming into this sector, especially if you talk about building tourism infrastructure or let's say a hotel or a convention center. Largely it is Indian entrepreneurs and local investors who are putting in money. A lot of these foreign companies are only in the sense operators who are really not putting in any money. So it doesn't really make a difference insofar as what you said in terms of corporate tax coming in. Yeah, it will definitely help our local players, but nothing that really makes a huge difference.
Okay, all right. At the same time, on the issue of employment and generation of skilled youth, that has been a core theme of this budget. What are your first thoughts on some of the announcements that have been made?
So, when I look at the silver linings for us, I think that is youth employment, skill development, and job creation. Definitely welcome initiatives because this industry has been facing, a huge shortage of skilled workforce. And looking at that, the incentives given, the internship programs, and higher education incentives, I think all of that will make a huge difference. I think in so far as that is concerned, it will be having positive effect on us and also on the initiatives for the women workforce. I think all of that will help a great deal. Some of the initiatives on religious tourism, especially in the Bihar, the educational and the cultural sectors on Bodh Gaya, and some of those really sounded interesting for the years to come. That those will create a lot of tourism footfalls, domestic and international, for us, I believe.
All right. I want to also bring in our next guest, Mr. Shetty. Stay on with us. Mr. Sunil Shanghai also with us on the broadcast. Mr. Shanghai, your first thoughts, sir, on the budget.
Thank you. I think it's a great combination of three things. It's like a sangam. One is this government, if you really see, and this is a generally philosophy of BJP in their earlier regime also, they have always believed in the fiscal consolidation. Now, this time round, they stuck to fiscal consolidation. Interim budget talked about the fiscal deficit of 5.1. We were all hoping, given the revenue buoyancy, probably it will be at around 5, but it went down to 4.9. That's definitely positive for the market. The second thread of this sangam is the infrastructure. They changed the nomenclature of infrastructure this time. If you really see, earlier the infrastructure used to be hard infrastructure. We used to talk about the roads and the ports and the airports and the railways. This budget, actually budget speech, didn't have the name. At least I didn't hear the name railway at all. But they moved to more softer infrastructures, which is education, skilling, the job creation, those kind of things. So that's also a very important part of the infrastructure, particularly the rural road development. One area which is very interesting, which will help them implement, rather than talking about the land reforms, they talked about the digitization of the land record. Ultimately, it's nothing but the land reform, right? Reducing the stamp duty, increasing the supply of the urban and the rural housing, including the rental. And the third part is the consumption. Somewhere they weaved into the consumption as well. Rather than putting the money directly as a DBT, direct money transfer, through the job creation schemes, particularly the credit guarantee scheme for MSME, we have seen the credit guarantee scheme during the COVID working really, really well. And I think this is a good experiment, increasing the other the credit schemes from 10 lakhs to the 20 lakhs, the Mudra Yojana. I think some of these things are nothing but indirectly giving the money, which will be used for the productive sector rather than just for the consumption. So on the whole, it's a great combination of this trinity or sangam, whatever you call it.
Right, absolutely. I just wonder your further thoughts, Mr. Shanghai, on the focus on employment and skill generation. The reason why this was important, perhaps expected in this budget as well, is because some of the forecasts that have been made, global agencies have now informed the world that as per their estimates right now, India will be the youngest country for the entirety of the century. Our population will continue to rise, which means that we will continue to have a supply of young workers at least until the end of the century. And this is perhaps the time to tap into the power of the youth. While that is a reality that we face, at the same time, we also face another reality of thousands of young people who are graduating from colleges, but they don't have the skills that are required, the skill set that is required in the corporate sector today, in regular jobs today. Even for journalism, I can tell you from my own experience, the people who are coming in seeking jobs, they don't have the skill set that is required. How do you think the government can then turn that vision into a reality, something that is on paper right now as a simple outlay, a budget outlay? How does that turn into a reality until and unless we actually have some sort of a mechanism where the entirety of the education system is, witnesses some sort of an overhaul?
I'm glad that you took the example of journalism, because I have been interacting with a lot of you since last 35 years. And the reason why you don't have skilled manpower is because the job requirements is changing, right? A few years ago, your skill sets were different. Today, your skill sets are different. I think what this budget is trying to do very smartly, it's directly benefiting where the requirement was. I think that's what they're trying to match. There was a complaint that we don't get, trained people, and there was a complaint that we don't get employment. So that is what they're trying to match. They're trying to do the skilling where you would have, because there is a manpower available. And if that manpower is skilled properly, then the corporate will be benefited by that. So this is one area. The second constant complaint, if you would heard, that dropout from the higher education, right? And that's where this 10 lakhs of the education loan scheme comes in. And there is a reduction in the interest rate on that. Which is very similar to what US is trying to do. And I think it's a big support, because that will encourage a lot of people to really go for the higher education. So the areas where there was a disconnect between availability and the requirement, they're trying to build a bridge. And your point on execution, I think if they're able to build this bridge properly, then the gap will be bridged, which is what the industry is asking for, or the country is asking for.
And at the same time, Mr. Shanghai, I just want to understand from you as well, as far as rural development is concerned, once again, a big chunk goes towards rural development. But how do we then ensure that, as we were discussing with the previous panelists as well, when we're talking about youth and young people from tier 2, tier 3 cities or even villages, how does one now ensure that they are getting the same opportunities as everybody else? What are your thoughts also on the internship program then that has been announced by the government, where, as I had mentioned earlier, a lot of times people are not able to take up internships because employers don't want to pay interns, and the people who are seeking internships, they're not in a position to keep up with the cost of travel today. Even a basic cost of travel to and fro, they're not able to keep that up because they're not earning any money. So do you feel that the government focusing on internships was a surprise, and it could possibly help India in the coming days?
I must compliment you. I'm so glad that you are focusing on this very important topic of internship. There are professions where internship is actually built in as a part of the curriculum and the education. Medical, for example, accounting, another profession. But there are professions where there is no internship provision. And that is where you find the skill mismatch. Why people don't do internship? A, they don't get internship. And B, they don't get paid. Absolutely, you are right in pointing that out. These things, I think, are taken care of. A, there is a proper payment for the internship. And B, they're forcing corporate India to say, look, you need skilled manpower. There is a manpower available. Go out and skill them, provide. That will also help. And we all do this in our, when we go out, we hire summer intern, etc. Essentially, our idea is to really
I think I've gone up to 245 this program.
3 months.
They haven't started.
Whether they are employable or not, do you want to make them an offer? Same thing, if you are able to get an intern for a year, you will be able to make a call whether you want to really, more often than not, you will see the conversion ratio will be very high. And those kids will get absorbed by the corporates where they go through the internship.
Right.
Actually, I know some banks actually have this program that they have a 1 year of internship, and thereafter, depending on the outcome of that, they get deployed in the bank. I think this is a fantastic program.
Absolutely. Mr. Shankar, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. I also have with me Dinesh Gulati, CEO of India Mart, and we also have with us Mr. Harish Pujur on the broadcast. Let me begin with Mr. Dinesh Gulati. Mr. Gulati, what are your first thoughts on the budget announcement?
Thank you so much for having me on board here. So I think its budget clearly is talking about uplifting the masses, focusing on the lower strata people, focusing on generating employment and enhancing skill for youth,